Let him not delight in sin. Pain is the outcome of evil.
Another canvas for the easel. Chapter 9 is called Evil. Dhammapada for the sequel. Dhammapada for the people. Evil deeds in this malice jungle. Heinous nations, corrupted hustles. Flagrant hatred, detractors haunt you. Hate to say this and I ain't want to. And even the righteous had evil thoughts. Wicked lingers over noble hearts. Wickedness, suffocation of innocence, that's how it starts. Diabolical affliction, vision clouded by the programming society's infliction. We surrounded by corruption, nefarious mentalities develop under fragile circumstances. But it ain't nothing you can tell them. I know evil, 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 evil.
Let a man avoid evil deeds as a merchant. If he has few companions and carries much wealth, avoids a dangerous road, as a man who loves life avoids poison.
Yeah, poisonous anecdotes tarnish progression. Born innocent, learning from the start of inception. Stepping stones to a moral compass that guided you throughout the storm. So when the evil thoughts emerge, you got the fortitude to stay informed. And they say, evil is human nature, but so is war. That don't mean shooting bullets off this righteous behavior. That's just a vice to invite you to danger. Cause we all got a conscience, some people ignore it just like a stranger. Good versus evil, the oldest drama known to man. Good versus evil, which side of the fence do you stand? Cause all I want is for my people to shine. Cause all I want is for my people to shine. I think it's time.
If a man offend a harmless, pure, and innocent person, the evil falls back upon that fool. Those who are free from all worldly desires attain nirvana.
Platinum Nirvana, chapter 9, one time. Yep. Diabolical affliction, vision clouded by the programming society's infliction. We surrounded by corruption, nefarious mentalities develop under fragile circumstances. But it ain't nothing you can tell them, I know. So what does this all mean? Where do we go from here? Careful, you gotta take caution before you steer. Think twice before it's lights off. Think twice or it might cost. Cause you gotta steer the boat. Never use autopilot. Cause when evil takes the wheel, sound the sirens. Whoosh. Evil. 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 Evil.
Even an evildoer sees happiness as long as his evil deed has not ripened. But when his evil deed has ripened, then does the evildoer see evil.
Yeah, chapter 9. Look, right out.
King Keith, William, Melanated, Bees, Nebu Nuku, Tanoni, True People. King Key, how you doing? Malik. Into the crisis.
Punishment. All men tremble at punishment. Remember that you are like unto them, and do not kill, nor cause slaughter. He who's seeking his own happiness punishes or kills beings who also long for happiness will not find happiness after death.
Chapter 10 is called Punishment. No filter, no embellishments. Nobody is immune to the storm. King with a crown full of thorns, living to the damn reborn. Till judgment day, any way that it goes. We all gotta see death someday. And the actions that we take are not just circumstantial. Weight on my shoulders, bearing down like an anvil, but that's just a sample. Talk to him.
He who inflicts pain on innocent and harmless persons will soon come to one of these 10 states. He will have cruel suffering, loss,
they gon' have to pay the cost.
injury of the body,
So sick he might need an IV.
heavy affliction,
Listen,
or loss of mind,
they lost their mind.
or misfortune,
Seen it out too many times, but what's the next? I'm waiting.
fearful accusation,
Shame,
loss of relation,
nights full of rainy weather.
or destruction of treasures.
Yeah, and it all comes with a price. Do wrong or you do right. Lie dormant or take flight. Breathe life or you gain sight. That's right. And it all comes with a price. Do wrong or you do right. Lie dormant or take flight. Breathe life or you gain sight. Talk to the people.
Is there in this world any man so restrained by humility that he does not mind reproof? As a well-trained horse, the whip. Like a well-trained horse, when touched by the whip, ye active and lively, you will overcome this great pain of reproof.
Yeah, see, it's hard trying to put that pride aside. Yeah, it's not easy, but it's all good. What's right is right. And that's the formula. Never forget the format. Feeling like I'm one step closer. This for the culture, words to the script to the hi-hat. Verse full of purpose, I like that. This for the time. The pride got too much. And you couldn't even take the punishment. All disgruntled and such. Yeah, it was hard to admit. But it's somewhat needed. It's hard to expand the mindset of conceited. It's hard to expand the mind, just believe it. And it all comes with a price. Do wrong or you do right. Lie dormant or take flight. Breathe life or you gain sight. That's right. And it all comes with a price. Do wrong or you do right. Lie dormant or take flight. Breathe life or you gain sight. That's right.
Well makers lead the water wherever they like. Carpenters bend a log of wood. Good people fashion themselves.
Yeah, ride out. Ride out. Ride out.
How are all now? We ain't trying to listen to Trick Daddy. How are we all doing tonight? Wonderful. I hope Chuck will be up momentarily. Before we get started, I'm going to start the live Q&A in the chat. You just put your questions in as indicated. It's going to pop up in a moment. You might have to refresh your live. You might have to refresh the video on your end. Please keep your questions relevant to the topic. And this applies to everybody in the chat. If you gonna cuss, misspell it, make the mods' jobs easier so we can take care of what really needs to be taken care of. Let's have a great discussion. Got a couple of new things coming to the treehouse, but we still gonna keep on with the same old around this joint till there ain't no need for it no more. That's always a given. So tonight we are gonna have a little Q&A about the York and the Kelly trials. Don't believe that was not directed at you at all. Oh, wait, I forgot to give the traditional all hail pickle man. But if you want it, you can take that title. Next to none, King Keith. But as you just heard me say, we are waiting for Chuck, and I haven't even started the Q&A in the chat. It's over here. King God, peace. I said, wait a minute. We about to get the light. We about to get the Q&A portion crunk up. Chuck coming. He coming. But y'all like as soon as Chuck get up here, 9 times out of 10, you gonna disappear. But your question's still gonna get answered, even from the bushes. Don't worry. I apologize for the delay, but we bad weather in both areas. I was finna say bad areas in both weather. Those of y'all that's been around for a while know I will jack some shit up. But Yeah, while we wait, hit the like, hit the share, and we gonna get this John started good in a minute. Ain't no problem, Keith. Chuck just doing some final little tweaks. And then we gonna get to getting. So, to fill in a little bit of the air time. Okay, as we all know, York was recently R. Kelly was recently transferred to another facility. They fooling with the AI right now, talking about Kelly out giving concerts. Prison concerts gonna be sold out. Ramen noodles make record sales in the correctional facility. But since they both basically got strung up on the same charges, you know, we gonna do a Q&A on both of them. Thanks, Malik. But yeah, we gonna do a Q&A. It's been record sales of ramen, honey buns, and Frito-Lays in the correctional facility so far. Well, he won't have to worry about what he gonna wear to the concert. Should I wear this orange jumpsuit or should I wear this orange jumpsuit? The internet was already hell. Now they done unleashed AI on us. We have so much to look forward to. Chuck, where you at, man? The Lord didn't saying turn out the lights again over there, did he? When the Lord saying turn out the lights, it sound a little bit different. It sound like dum, 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 dum. Man, you said 5 minutes, man. No, I'm playing. Why won't this daggone call in? That might have something to do with it. Lord. Freaky weathers. Freaky weathers. Everybody be safe around this. Oh, okay. I'll cut my camera off. Hold on. There we go. Try it now. Yeah, he putting the final tweaks on. But this is your last time to go run to the ladies or the gents. Grab your last drink and snack refill, whatnot, and we will be getting started. Let me go ahead and drop this Q&A in the chat so y'all can get started with the questions. See viewers' questions and choose which ones to answer. Okay. So we'll have a couple of questions for Chuck when he come through the dial. Family, y'all are not sending enough power, positive energy, and that's why Chuck can't get up here right now because he texted me, and it ain't working right. Oh, let me. I'll ring her off. It won't open because it say it's open on something else. We getting there, family. We almost there. Y'all don't mind me. Y'all know I ain't got no sense. At least I'm honest, though. At least I don't walk around here perping like I'm normal and then popping crazy shit on y'all out of nowhere. Y'all always know I'm going to lose something on these lives. Something going to fall. Y'all going to hear something tumble over and y'all going to hear some snacks. Yo, I gotta get a snack security box. Because Crystal ganked me, yo. 2 packs of gummy worms. And y'all don't ask the same question everybody else done ask. Dogs eat gummy worms? Apparently, because she fucked up 2 packs. 17's like we've been here before. There he goes. Hey, Chuck. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, cut your mic down just a tinch. Just a tinch.
Oh, Lord. Am I up too loud?
Yeah, a little bit. You got that big boy going on tonight.
Man, I've been trying to get this thing straight, but never mind.
Yeah, pay all that money for a
I'm hearing
microphone and
echoes.
don't have no volume button on it. Do you have your headset on? Echo cancellation turned off?
I think I have it on my phone. That was my phone. Greetings. Greetings to all. It's showtime.
Pickle man, his intergalactic kosher pickle powers. At least once every York Live, I'll help Pickle Man.
I'm gonna have to fix this up later. All right, greetings to everyone. Welcome aboard. I appreciate everyone for stopping by here at newwapianism.com. And we are simulcasting along with CCTV? True House.
Is fine.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I don't want to make this long. I just wanted to go over some general points because we haven't really talked about this guy in a while, and I personally don't really want to, but because of the current situation that involves a similar character, R. Kelly, York has, some of the people in his camp will seize this moment to cry that he should be transferred to that same facility because, ironically, that was the facility that they have been trying to transfer him since about 2005 to Butner in North Carolina, which is a less maximum security prison, which would give him more access to the cult by still running the cult from prison, as opposed to where he is now in the Colorado Supermax. So because R. Kelly was convicted on similar sex crimes, this is like a golden opportunity. I wanted to kind of do a heads up and stay ahead of the cult in talking about this and just try to bring people sort of up to date on how this thing is currently running. So let's begin. Where do you want to go? Because I didn't want to just be some type of lecture or just
You
I
know, we
wanted to
like
be
lectures around here too. But
well,
let
you
me
know, that's
just
good. But
say,
I think
they would have
we have
moved
enough of that. I
Kelly
think we have enough.
to,
What is
yeah,
it? Some of the channels and
yeah. I'm
shows that we
thinking
did over the
about
years.
running them on the podcast because it ain't really a lot of York stuff on the podcast. So I'm gonna go through and shorten some of them and put them in some kind of continuation, and then run them on the straight pot. You know, the ones that you can play on the radio.
Hmm.
But let me just say, they would have moved Kelly to a less secure facility versus York, because York Kelly might have a following, but York got a cult following. There's a difference.
Hmm.
You know, that's why they got Warren Jeffs under the jail. They're treating
Yeah,
him
that's
more in
another.
line
Yep.
with
Hmm.
they treating
That's a
him more
name
in
that
line with a FLDS cult leader than just a regular prevert.
exactly. And I think that's a good point because people that would say, well, if they can move him, R. Kelly, then certainly they can move York because I mean he's a senior citizen and he would be, no real harm to the public. People seem to keep forgetting that this guy has these people's minds, and they'll pretty much do anything to either see him or carry out any of his dictates, be that harassing people, um, attacking
They can
people on social
claim,
media,
sorry,
how he sees fit. And I think that's one of the reasons there'll be less of a likelihood of them moving him. How much of Dr. York's information he provided could have been proven facts? Well, that's difficult. That's a difficult question, King Keith, because York had a tendency to mix truth with falsehoods, or
and
more falsehoods
plagiarism.
with truth, and that was one of his hooks. Because on one hand, if you just as a starting point, if you dealt with biblical teachings, his interpretations of biblical storylines, and how he was able to fill it in, or fill in his opinions, um, that usually was a hook that he was successful in gathering people or followers. You know, I'll give you an example. So if he were to talk about the 144,000, his claim was that we are raising the 144,000 children of light here in Brooklyn, New York. And he would put out, well, name another organization that's talking about the 144,000 gowned in white, because the book of Revelation speaks about them and that they are virgins. And I'm quoting him now, we raise our children as virgins because they have not been defiled by the harlot being a symbolism that he would use in reference to America. So that being the case, and he claiming to be Melchizedek, or Michael, the revelator, or the person who gives John the book of Revelation, gives him the vision, because he even describes himself in the second chapter of the book of Revelation, is that I turned to the one that showed me these things, and it was one like the Son of Man. That's who York is claiming to be, because he's not saying, and he was very careful about this, that I am not saying that I am Jesus. No, he would say that he's the one who prepares the way for the return of the real so and so. So one of the hooks they used was how the Ansar Allah community was set up, was that it was segregated, children here, men there, women over there, adolescents over on this side. And by having them live in this segregated life, the children were supposed to be not touched by the delicacies of the harlot, which again is the paraphernalia that Western America offers their children. And so by
Funny
he
he went
doing
for
this,
female
a
symbolism.
lot of parents were able to, or trusted him by giving them his children. Okay. By having you move into the tabernacle of the Most High, as it would have it. Because
Mhm.
whether people know this or not, there were two types. There were those people who lived in their regular day-to-day life in outside the community, and then there were those who were encouraged to literally move inside one of York's either satellite communities or live on the main property. At that time would be have been Brooklyn, New York, 717 Bushwick Avenue, or in the property that was purchased in upstate New York, in Monticello, New York, Sullivan County, which we refer to as Jazir Abba, and then ultimately down in 404 Shadydale Road in Eatonton, Georgia. Okay.
Do you
Um,
see those, Chuck?
yeah, I see him. I get to
Should
him.
I?
One second.
Okay.
Yeah, you can post them. So that was just an example of how he was able to use the scriptures to try to mesh them with today as being a prophecy fulfilled, which is that he, York, is the one preparing the way. He is Michael. He is Melchizedek because he has the ability to interpret the scriptures like no other person can because he has Spurkan, which is where it's supposed to be there. He's an Ilamud Jesset. He is an avatar. So that was how he was able to do it, and he was pretty successful. What happened to Haru? You're talking about Haru Amadou Avarma. He broke off after York had got incarcerated and ultimately convicted. He moved on and to England, and he has currently established his own little branch of the cult. He have a type of cult, not referring to himself as Nuwapian. No, he has his own little thing. I think it's called the it's some kind of Christian type church because with York playing so much with the Bible and that sort of things, he was really good at
Yes,
it. Meaning
Christian till they had a
Hotep.
closed door meetings.
Huh?
From what I say it's Christian till they had a closed door meetings. From what we done heard.
Yeah. I can't remember. I can't remember. I don't remember off the top of my head what he calls it now, but he broke off and he is currently running a cult of his own. It's just really really low key, and he don't want to stick his head out too far apparently.
Yeah. And let's just take
Yeah.
this moment to say, please hit the like, hit the share, and hit the subscribe if you already haven't. But the like and the share is going to get the video out so people can see it.
Okay. Also, I think this is Demetrius Graham. Yep. Bun is fully aware. I mean, all of that stuff. His two daughters, yeah, they were about, yeah. He's fully aware of that. Now we talked about it. They talked about it when they were active on social media. So yes, yeah, that's true. And they were, as part of the listed victims, they were two of the listed victims as well. Was there ever suspicious talk about molestation within the camp while he was teaching? There was. Um, you did had a couple of instances in Brooklyn, but the people who made certain commentaries, they were removed from the community, and of course labeled as being crazy. That's basically it. There was a lot of things that were going on. Usually, it centered around York's tampering with various members as girlfriends or wives. Because I think I was on another show. We were just pointing out that when you moved into the Ansarullah community, Nubian Islamic Hebrews, you had to fill out a physical application as well as an entrance ex, an entrance ex, fuck, my mind is going.
An
You
entrance
had to fill out an
exam,
entrance application
a
as well,
medical
and
wasn't.
on that
Yeah.
entrance, huh?
Go ahead.
Oh,
You
that
saying it.
entrance, yeah, that entrance application. You're asked a series of questions, and many of them dealt with much about your past, sexual past, how you feel about various forms of sex, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, you have to have a physical as well. And much of the information that you submit, that personal information goes into that file at the headquarters. And one of the things is, in addition to those those forms, you also had to submit a specific passport photo. You had to have a color photo and a black and white photo. And so you had to have one. If it was a young lady, she had to have a picture with her with the veil on and one with the veil off. Okay, and of course York had full knowledge of who was who because at that time the brothers didn't see the sisters, and you couldn't interact with a young lady who was a member. If she wore brown, she's a new girl. You couldn't interact with them. So it wasn't a thing as where you see a girl, you like her, or that type of thing. You if it was in the community, she was off limits. Usually, brothers brought in their girlfriends or wives. It was very seldom, at least from what I've witnessed, very seldom that a young lady who was single just moved in on her own. Because the whole thing was is if she's by herself, you need a man to do this because some brothers have to go out and they have to provide and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is ironic. You
They
would
were
think that
either
they would be
brought by their
providing when
parents
they
or
weren't.
came. Yeah, they was either brought by a parent or came with a spouse. Mr.
And you had if
Morpheus.
young, you had to get your parents' approval. Matter of fact, Harun Hotep
Mhm.
had gotten his parents. He was 16 when he moved in.
Okay, so he said, was the lodge official or a joke? And the answer to that was no, right? He got all that information from one of the older members about the lodge.
Yeah, the Nuwapian Grand Lodge of Freemasonry International. I remember when it started because usually we already had our own attire as the Imam, the Ancient Mystic Order of Melchizedek, where you had your tarbush, you had your apron, you had or your sash. When we would have functions down in Atlanta, we would come. Um, I think it was usually on New Year's Eve. We would have our little functions down there, and we would all dress up looking like Masons, but we weren't technically Masons because we didn't have G Compass Square or anything like that. And it wasn't until around 2000 that he broke off with that thing, and that was around the time that he was getting this information from um, Ramesses Richardson's grandfather, Abby Ilias, who was a high-ranking Freemason, and he used much of the information from him. He was able to get enough paraphernalia from various Masonic sellers, from the apron that he had as a Supreme Sovereign Grand Commander, Inspector General. Uh, I usually all this stuff is centered around Scottish Rite Freemasonry. So he was able to push all of that and have the regalia, and then he would just pop out of nowhere. No one knew anything about it. And then we were all eventually asked to, quote, ride the goat. We
Yeah,
would,
I remember when we
hey,
talked
Morpheus,
about it, about them
we would have
switching to the different things because they was on one and it seemed like because they had to buy the outfit all over again and then they had to pay for the cards and
that's the thing. Everything, see, it was all a hustle. It was all a hustle because everything that we had, the paraphernalia, you had to purchase separately. All right, I'll give you an
yeah.
example. All right, myself and a brother named Jonathan Johnson, Big Tex, we had to leave our stores. I was in Baltimore, he was in DC. We would come down to Georgia, and we were the only two brothers that was up north that were asked to come down and get all three of our degrees the same night. So we went in at about 7 p.m. and came out at about 5 a.m. So we had to go through the whole ritual all night. I mean, of course, there were pauses and we had to take breaks and stuff. But the whole ritual, the hazing, the whole thing with one pants leg rolled halfway up, torn sleeve, cable toed, blindfolded, the whole thing, the whole ritual. I think it's Duncan's. I haven't seen it in so many years. All that, the whole ritual we went through. And by the time we went to the Master Mason's degree, I had sat in the past master's chair, hit the gavel, and then I was unaware. So one of the brothers knocked over a pylon that was in the lodge, and chaos broke out in the room. And I'm tripping. I'm like, what you doing? And then it was all part of that ritual. So they grabbed me from the past master's table, threw me on the ground, blindfolded me, and the ritual began again. And so I was lifted up, by the lion's paw or lion's grip, whatever. the whole thing. But it was all based on that ritual. So it was not anything that was sanctioned because, in fact, the local Prince Hall Lodge, and was as well as another lodge, had sent the that community letters demanding that they refrain from passing themselves off as a legitimate lodge. And then ultimately, York disbanded the Masonic Lodge for various reasons. I'm assuming, of course, that it was centered around that because they were going to file a lawsuit about that. And even with the whole shrinery thing, it even went down to the the shrine. I can't figure what they even called themselves at that time, but that was another area. And and what I was trying to say was when we the next morning he told us that we had to get our ring because if we were Lodge brothers, we had to have this certain. It was a ring. It was a fake gold ring. It was made of brass, and it was a plastic cover that had a eye of Horus inside the brass part, but it was a fake red jewel. And all of us, and I think we spent $50 on the ring.
Yeah, I remember
was,
Moo gave
yeah.
us the pricing on some of those one time because he was like, he went through every order York had damn near for the Masonic side or whatever. It was something like that. Moo, are you in the bushes? Demetrius say he performed on the land in the Club Ramses. You performed in the styrofoam pyramid.
Who did? Oh, Demetrius?
Demetrius said it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was managed by Fred Bodie.
Yeah, that stage. Yeah. That was where and when we had I think it was the second year when the community was starting to try to get established. I think it was in 1994. A lot of performances took place on that stage. That was when country western star Cleve Francis had performed down on the property. And that was another thing that when we left from upstate New York to Eatonton, that was when the cult was wearing cowboy gear because we didn't want to go because his whole reasoning behind it was that you don't want to go down into some redneck town wearing white jalabias, emas, and six-pointed stars. So we're going to wear the country western look, and then we're going to blend in. Something
y'all in there clowning tonight. Yeah. Have you watched Ruthless yet, Chuck?
Say again?
Have you watched Ruthless yet?
Yeah, I saw the one that they did with the sister being interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
But she told me that they took it down because the young lady that did the interview felt fearful, and she's like, I don't know what happened. So
no, Ruthless, the Tyler Perry series.
Yeah, I think that was what it was.
No, he asking you, does it? Because everybody, the last time that we asked, Anthony was here and Moo was here.
Oh, I see what she's going.
And they said,
yeah, I see where you're going now.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
I think I might close resemblance. Yeah, you talking about the docu-series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I got it somewhere.
So they stopped it because of that.
I don't. And as far as I know, the Ruthless thing is still going. As far as I know.
No, not Ruthless. The docu-series.
Yeah, that docu it stopped.
That's what I'm saying. They stopped it because she got threats.
Well, she stopped it. The person I guess who runs it, she stopped dealing with. Well, let's put it this way. I'm sorry. She took that video down with one of the listed victims. When she was interviewed, she just took it down because she said that she was getting bad messages, I guess, from cult members, and
friends
she just
and
said
family.
She don't need that kind. She don't need
we
that
can't
kind of
even
thing.
get the interviews and stuff because they harass the people that do it and the victims too much. Well, don't y'all think it's time that, you know, I mean, it's enough for us. It's enough for us together. We ain't all got to work together. Mm-hmm. If everybody write their local people and write their local Federal Bureau of Investigation and tell into your state Bureau of Investigation, because they operate out of damn near every state, including other countries.
Mm-hmm.
and tell them this needs to be addressed because they just letting them run willy-nilly around here. They gonna go sell again, and here we go. Be bitches
So
in the basement.
I'm gonna try to hit the questions as they come in.
Ain't no more came in yet.
No, I see him on. I guess is this the back chat?
Hold on, I had the question thing on. Yeah, and then nothing came up yet.
So in what you just said, yeah, there's more than enough people. See, what they did was they would have their little updates in various meetings, and so when word got out that Kathy Johnson had written a book, the assumption was that she was going to blast and tell everything. And what had happened was, and I sat in the bushes. They put a message out that you go to Amazon and put a negative rating on the book or make some commentaries that were negative in reference to the book. And so
they like to play dirty on social media. Every time you see one of them, you need to address them with facts.
You have to, because I mean, this is a pedophile cult. This is a pedophile protecting cult. You know?
Look,
and so that's what they did regarding her book. That's what they did for her book.
York wouldn't even have to do nothing. They would bring the children to York. That's how sick they are. You can't keep letting them run around here because that's what. Look, they breeding and they breeding. Y'all know what come after that. They indoctrinate them. Then we got a whole nother generation. They running around here trying to snatch the children up again.
And we see that.
Weren't you college age when they got you when you joined or whatnot? Lured in. You were in college, right? Hey, let's do it. Chuck, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Okay. Yep. Right. So if York wasn't arrested, would you have still listened to him? In retrospect, I'm not sure. A few years ago, I would have said yes. And the only reason I'm saying that is because not living on the property when all this stuff was going on, you had no way of knowing it. So my relationship with him being up in the north, and he's oh, hey, how you doing? He filtering in information for me when I'm doing radio or if I'm doing a lecture. If there's a book that he needs to have proofread, I'm getting all this stuff. And at that time, those were, quote, honors to receive from him. So, give a little, have some more type of thing. And as long as the relationship was cordial, because I was treating him with respect, probably. I think I might still be a part of the cult had he not been arrested, because other than some of the rumors, there was no definitive information to support any allegations. And for the record, the allegations didn't start to come out until like approximately a year before he was arrested. And he blew it off, and we blew it off as store owners, that it was just some disgruntled members who were trying to attack him. And of course, the best way to take down a black leader is to talk about him having sex. And he even put out an audio recording called Persecution of Your Leaders, where he even mentioned that they would take me down, they take all kinds of black leadership down by always involving the woman and making allegations about his sex life in his bedroom. How many children does he have? This kind of thing. Okay. And so by the time the emails started circulating, that was when we kind of like, there you go. This is a persecution of the leader. And I went on my show defending him for years. Well, not for years, during that period. I would have in Washington, D.C., it was WOL radio, which became XM. So by the time he went on XM, I was doing my show, and that's what I was putting out there, that he is a political prisoner None of this, everything that he's saying about him is false allegations. Nothing's been proven. Blah blah blah. So I was caught up in it, and that was that.
Well, not let me ask, but let me say, people seem to forget and they fervor to accuse people of this, that, and the other. That this happened in the very early 2000s. What the Tama raid was in 2002, early 2002.
What do you mean Tama raid?
People, the Tama raid.
Oh, the raid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the raid happened in 2002. So that means cell phones were not widely available. People were still using house phones. People were still relying mostly on the mail because AOL was slow. I mean, everybody got them AOL CDs in the mail. Y'all remember, everybody over a certain age, y'all remember them discs. That took forever. So it wasn't like it is today where you get the information from across seas in a couple of hours after it happened. It was days, weeks, months. Hell, in some cases, people didn't never find out. It never left the local area. So unless you was right there, Johnny on the spot, you didn't know what was going on. Besides, you hear somebody occasionally, oh, they just mad. Because, you know, you would think people would be mad because they had to take in. You know, you couldn't you couldn't come in if you didn't get your take in. Then they had the green room situations and stuff like that. So, you know, you can slow it off on stuff. Oh, he just mad because this right here. He just mad because this right here. But, you know, it's not enough in the same location for it to be like, okay, so everybody's saying this. Nah, it's one over here. It's one over here because these are satellites. York had his place where he had his chosen people, and they were not chosen because they was going to heaven. They was chosen because them was his picks, the ones that was going to comply.
All right. There's a question that's relevant that I want to jump on right now. What's the tie between R. Kelly and the brother who took over? Short, dark-skinned brother, Duswa. Okay. The person's name is Damon Pryor. Damon Pryor, who is parading himself around the cult now as Duswa York. He is not related to York. York is not his father. That was all. He put that out after York was incarcerated. He testified at the R. Kelly trial on behalf of R. Kelly in regards to an incident involving a minor. That's the extent of it that I'm aware of. He did not take over the organization. I want to make that clear. He did not take over. He moved to Ghana, where he's trying. I think he's already set up his own little cult there, and they even put a statue of York in front of one of his little storefronts in Ghana. So he has people, and he's the one who's been instrumental in putting out like the fake passport, the fake birth certificates. He's the one that faked the affidavits that has a couple of the listed victims claiming that nothing happened. Duswa, who is Damon Pryor, he's the one who set all that up. And he's been pretty much ostracized from the community because of some sexual issues involving he and minors as well. That was argued out in shame on a clubhouse discussion that we were all in with Tazariak and I guess the guy who runs the blood gang or some shit. But that was like an 6 to 8 hour discussion, and his one of York's daughters had put him on blast live regarding that situation because it did go to court. So that's the extent I have as far as that is concerned, that he just testified on behalf of R. Kelly in regards to that. But no, he did not take over the organization. And at this point, he's just on his own.
And then I said, at what point did you decide York was a fraud?
There's two parts to that. One is when I broke off from studying the literature And when I came here, and I just stopped reading it altogether. I'm trying to get things going. I'm over here in paradise, and I'm with my girl, and we just having a good time. So it wasn't until around about 2011, yeah, WAC 100. Yeah, thanks, Antar. It wasn't until around 2011 that I even picked up another publication and started going through it. But and by that time, I had already been skeptical by reading it because some of the stuff was just not making sense. Things that I really didn't look into when I was a Nuwapian, because you're spending so much time trying to perfect the teaching part of the cult, gathering, internalizing, regurgitating as much information that you're getting from him, that you don't have time to look at the information from a doubting perspective. Your whole thing is, how are you going to articulate it to the public and be flawless and always have an answer? Because we were told you got to always have an answer. Don't say that you don't know. Later on, York said, if you don't know, just say you don't know. But initially, from the inside, we were just told you got enough information that nothing that people can come with you can't answer. And that was how that goes. So the first part was the doctrine. I started seeing gaps in it. And even way back when, because I didn't understand it at the time, that wasn't enough weight to pull me away. Like when they would talk about Yaqub's, with the big head scientist that I knew he got from the Nation of Islam, that was questionable, but it wasn't enough to sway me. It was just that, okay, he's on a mission. I don't fully understand it, so just let me ride and see how it goes. Um, when he started proclaiming to be an extraterrestrial being from the eighth planet in the 19th galaxy called Ilion, yeah, I all I could go on was what he was saying. If it's not your experience, don't talk about it. And so I would just in class, I would always tell people when they would ask certain questions that I'm skeptical on. I say, I can't answer that question. So write it down. And then when we go down to next Wednesday and I see the man, I'll ask him. And if he's gracious enough to give us the answer to your question, I'll bring it back for you, because I can't answer that question. That's not my experience. And that was how I would pretty much uh, walk away or throw a red herring on the topic, because I couldn't answer it. And it was only certain questions that you were going to ask York. You're not going to ask him questions that you're going to get blasted on, because we've had enough examples of individuals who may have asked some question that he didn't want to talk about or didn't like. So even when if you were tight with some of the brothers that were down there, say, can I ask them this? Come on, I don't ask them no question like that. You're gonna get on blast. You know the master put you on blast, that's your ass. So certain things you had to confer with the brothers first before you asked. And if it's okay, all right, yeah. That's legit. That's legit.
Y'all were basically conditioned not to think about it and conditioned not to ask questions.
What happened to Mentu Hotep? Mentu Hotep still is active. He runs the Detroit bookstore. Mentu Hotep on Delonta Jones. That was the individual who I actually bunked with in the DC community. He bunked above me and I was at the bottom. He was one of the more thorough teachers in the cult. He was very good at regurgitating York's interpretations and teachings. But when it came to debates in the community in DC, when he took over, I was the one who did the debating. I was the go-to man, because he told me, he's like, I'm not a debater, So I was, that was my claim to fame on as far as in the community there, that and being the carpentry worker. And once the attire changed to the cowboys and hats, the cowboy boots and hats, how were you received by outsiders? What doctrine was taught at the time? Oh man, how were we received? We were laughed at. I mean, come on. All right, I'll give you DC for an example. All right, so I'm doing my thing, trying to go on, find a good spot to set up. All right. So you might find a little walk ride. So in DC, I would go to Potomac Avenue Metro Station, or I would try to hit Rhode Island Avenue Metro Station, um, maybe even the Benning Road Station. Okay. So I would get on the bus. So if I'm going to be out in Southeast DC, now imagine this, because Southeast is considered one of the bad parts of DC. I mean, I grew up there, so, but I knew a lot of people. So you get on the bus, you get on the, I think it was the 812, 89, one hour, it's been so long. But you get on the bus that's going downtown. So you get up, leave where you are, and you get on the bus, and then you go to the back, and people looking at you like, God damn, this motherfucker, he got on some boots, got some Levi's on, got the rifleman type of hat, you know. He got the fly shirt, you know, and let me check this out. I was having great pride in dressing like a cowboy guy, because I literally was wearing Malachi York's boots. He had some boots that he
oh yeah.
Yeah. He had these boots. It was some I think it was some rye boots. And they had holes at the bottom of them. But I was wearing them. And I didn't care about the holes, because I was like, I got the master teacher's boots on. I mean, really, I'm wearing his boots. And they was like 2 sizes too big. So my joints was looking kind of like I'm wearing, the Thief of Baghdad type of boots with the curl joint. It curls up at the end.
Oh, we missed the question about York and how he transitioned from music to cult, but it wasn't really a transition.
No, it wasn't a transition. It literally was a combination, because as he did it, he was skillful to have a dual personality. This is how he did it. Dr. York was the person or the character that takes over his body when he's in the entertainment industry. So when you're saying Dr. York, you're talking about the man who's bringing medicine to the music world to try to educate them and bring them up to a level of standards in being, quote, conscious. Okay. So he would buy time to record in Gamble and Huff's studio in Philadelphia. He would rub elbows with the Delphonics, Blue Magic. What's his name? What's the brother that did with Barry White? Albie Shore.
Christopher Williams?
No, the brother. He was a staunch Nuwaubian. He was singing in the Garden. He came up with the second chorus. Can't remember his name. I don't believe I remember his name.
I know who you talking. Marvin Gaye. The other guy. I know
it
which.
Starts off with Albie Shore, and then he comes in.
James Ingram.
James Ingram. And because James Ingram, as a Nuwaubian, he was he was trying to convert celebrities. He was talking to Stevie Wonder, Barry, the DeBarge brothers. He was talking to everybody. That was his pipeline. Because James Ingram, man, he was a serious Nuwaubian. Okay. So he didn't have to live in the community. He would do songs. He did this song to Atum Ray. Jimmy Cliff. So York would he would surround himself when he's pretending to be the singer guy. He would make hook up with what was the guy? He was married to Kimora Simmons, Russell Simmons. You would see pictures with him, all these various celebrities. And of course Morpheus, he knows more about this because that he was with
Morpheus, you want to come on one night and talk about it?
Man. Morpheus, you was a performer, and I think you still are, with not Blue Magic. Please forgive me for not remembering at the time. I am getting older.
Hey, it ain't but so many times you can sit up here and repeat the same thing before you start forgetting stuff.
Chunky, the real brother Chunky. I can't remember the group. Um, it just slipped my mind. I can't remember the name right now. But anyway, Morpheus spent a lot of time with him with York and you know, Bodyguard, being in the music industry. Um, I can't remember the group's name. If
Force
Morpheus is still around,
MDs. Hey,
I can't
Seth.
remember their name. But
Hey,
anyway, so what he
everybody
did
that's
was
been
he would
came
be
in.
Dr. York on one hand and Imam Asa on the other hand. Matter of fact, Khalid Muhammad, when he was going back and forth with York, he was saying that he's during the daytime he's Imam Isa, and then at nighttime he's Dr. York playing in the disco. Hey Morpheus,
Dr. York playing in the
Morpheus,
disco.
talk about Waleed's abuse, yeah, and the murder while testifying on York's trial. Um, that's three parts. Morpheus, would you put up the name of the group you was a part of? I can't remember the name. Forgive me, but I can't remember the name right now. My mind is clouded with so much other stuff. So, in answer to your question, Wali was an individual that everyone was familiar with. He was a guy that you always saw York with. Wherever you saw, it's it's like if you go to a show and everybody you see on album jackets and interviews and tours, you always see that one guy or girl with somebody. So when they come out first, you know whoever's the star is going to come out next, and that's how tight Wally was. He was also a teacher, and he had a number of children
Hold on.
in the community.
Morpheus, you was in the Force MDs?
Yeah,
Which one
Force
are
MD.
you?
God, can I forget?
Yo, we
My
got
bad.
43 people here between my channel and Chuck channel. Welcome all of you. We are sorry
Yeah, I
if we
didn't even
missed any
promote this.
questions.
I just threw it out there. So
If
yeah,
you did,
Morpheus, you can come
re-enter
on
them
there
in the chat.
and
Yeah, I can drop the link.
talk about your days at Force MDs or being an Ansar in the music industry and the whole thing, Dr. York Records, all that stuff. So, getting back to the point he was bringing up. So Wali, he had one of his sons, Abdul Salam. He testified against York at the 2004 trial, and his testimony helped to convict York. Of course, his testimony was corroborated by other individuals who testified because he was a listed victim, and other individuals saw or witnessed he being sexually abused by York. So that was his contribution. Unfortunately, he was convicted for murder in Georgia. There was a Caucasian woman who was murdered, and he pled guilty to. And right now he's in jail down. I think it's in down in Georgia, but it's just a strange
Athens,
type of
Georgia.
thing because
Yeah.
uh, even though he's in jail, he has Facebook, and we stay in touch with each other on Facebook. Yeah. So yeah, he
He got
testified
40
and
years.
he gave some very vivid, very uh horrible, I didn't put it that way, horrible testimonies of some of the abuses
Mhm.
that York perpetrated against him, what he witnessed, and some of the sex orgies that he participated in with York, Kathy Johnson, Khadija Merritt, and what was her name? Najla. I can't remember her name. Oh, Chandra Lampkin. Yeah. So that's all in the trial transcripts, and at least parts of his testimony. If you go to nawabianism.com and you just click on the leader, some of those testimonies you can read for yourself. So yeah. Um, oh, being an alien is far fetched, though. Yes, it is. Yes, it was. But see, let me show you how York was able to merge it all to make it
Oh,
at
I
least
put it in the
somewhat
wrong one.
believable. By that time, as we were Ansars and moving over into the Nubian Hebrews and then Holy Tabernacle Ministries, which culminated into the United Nuwabian Nation of Moors, York, for years, going all the way back as an Ansar, always spoke about the Bible, okay, and that he was the angel Michael. and also how angels were nothing more than what we interpret in the modern world as extraterrestrials. These were beings that, although they could personify in a physical form on their planet or where their realm is, I can't remember how you put it. It was three realms: Nusut, Utsut, Malakut, something like that. The three realms. And when they personify here, they come as well made men. And then he would use various biblical quotes where the angel Gabriel would personify or come before Mary. And York's talking point was that in order for Jesus to have been born, someone had to impregnate her. And so the angel Gabriel, when it says, and he gave us quote after quote after quote, he would say, when it talks about, and the angel came in unto her, we use various quotes from the Old Testament, New Testament. We say whenever someone says he came in unto someone, when you go into someone, that means you're having sex with them. So we were taught, and we taught that angels, when they personify in the earthly realm, they have sex with humans. And we were able to put a cherry on that by going to the book of Genesis. I think it was Genesis 6:9. And it says, and there was giants in the earth in those days. And when the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took wives of all which they chose, and they, quote, came in unto them, and they conceived, and they became mighty men of old, men of renown, if I remember the quote exactly. That was how he was able to tie it all in, Old Testament, New Testament. So when by the time he talks about someone had to supply Mary with the Y chromosome in order to have a male child. Okay, so the idea wasn't so far-fetched, because he said, oh, the angels, you being Michael, the angel Michael, you're able to, oh, that's why. And so we ran with that, and he being an alien didn't necessarily change, because he would always say that, well, the angels will be alien to you because they are from extra terra astral. Okay, extra in addition to terra, the land, from the astral plane. These were some of the tactics that that cult used in order to suck us in. And then we, in turn, taught it, because much of our information either came from the books or they came from York's True Light tapes. So York would get up there. So a girl, he was talking to a girl. She was talking about angels, and he was saying, well, so the girl, as he's explaining, she said, oh, so I talked to an angel today. And he said, yes, and I'm talking to one also, because you were from another plane. We're all from another plane.
Come up, Morpheus.
And then he goes into his whole spiel about that.
He said, what happened to Mtume?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to hit everything. So whatever happened to Mtume? Mtume, of course, I think he passed on. But that was another individual that York had befriended as Dr. York. And he even did a video with a group, Sheba Day. And you see York. And I'm trying to find this video. It's a documentary called Dr. York, the Man Behind the Empire. It's a video that he released years and years ago when we were Ansars. And he's being interviewed by someone. We never hear anyone actually ask him questions. The camera is on York behind the keys. The tracks you slide in the recording studio. He's in York Records, and it's talking about it just shows all of his music videos and the people that he produced. He's talking about Tina Turner, and they always ask, and he's doing his Dr. York thing. He's being interviewed, and he's saying, and no one ever asked Tina Turner, "Are you a Buddhist?" So why did they ask a Dr. York, am I a Muslim? And then he pulls out the 6-pointed star and crescent. So I'll say officially that I am a Muslim. And he pulls out the 6-pointed star and crescent medallion that he wears around his neck. Okay. So the video talks about that, how he put together the whole Dr. York recording studio, and the importance of having, who taught? Yes, Dr. York. And he talks about how he used the Dr. York thing to reach those in the entertainment industry. But when you listen to Dr. York songs, it's usually about, love, and, he's a crooner. He's the whole Marvin Gaye, Frank Sinatra thing. you know. So you don't hear about quote consciousness or knowledge dropping this or that. All you get is just that. Now, the publication that he also, in addition to Dr. York Records, he also put the publication called Passion News, because before he broke off to being a single artist, it was the group Passion. So there was a group called Passion where he put out some songs, and then he broke off and it just became Dr. York, and of course Dr. York Records, which is a beautiful studio that he built in Brooklyn, in Hart Street, Brooklyn, New York. Because in addition to that, he also had the Hall of Knowledge that was there, and then all that stuff got relocated from Brooklyn to upstate to down in Eatonton, Georgia, where he changed the name from York Records to Hathor Records. And that was around the time that when he opened up the Ramesses Dance Club, which was, some trailers put together to make a studio, dance hall, a club, a bar, and a lecture hall. Eventually, it was shut down by Sheriff Sills because they were selling alcohol. And, a brother who who participated in a news report, a Georgia news report, said and gave a tour of the club. Which he shouldn't have done, because by doing that he exposed it, and that's when the county sheriff as well as the city officials came in and they shut it down. I don't know whatever happened to Tron after the arrest. I don't know whatever happened to Tron. I lost contact with him. I lost contact with all them guys by that time. They just weren't around. I think Matt Tim, that was the tall Puerto Rican guy that looked like a highway patrolman. He always wears his hat.
Morpheus, peace.
But I lost contact with all those guys.
Yo, peace, y'all. I'm enjoying this. I'm laying in bed enjoying this right now. So.
Oh yeah, I hope you're feeling better.
What's up, man? What's good, Chuck?
Now you're holding on, brother. Doing my thing.
Yeah, like here we go again, right?
Yeah, I just, like I said, I just wanted to bring up some things that people have in various questions, etc. But as far as the music industry, that's your lane because you have firsthand knowledge of that.
Oh yeah. I can tell you a lot about that.
The whole thing with how do you, the music, getting music played on the radio, all that stuff.
Yeah, I can tell you want to hear some funny stuff about that, the music stuff, right? Doc always wanted to be in the mainstream music business, right? But none of the DJs liked his music, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to go out to promote his records, and so we used to get to promote his stuff with our stuff. And they'd be like, all the DJ, the record pools, like, yo, man, we love y'all shit, but yo, on the real stuff, they should be like, yo, this shit is garbage.
Yeah. A couple of people sometimes.
So we couldn't go back. We couldn't go back and tell them that. You know what I mean? Like it's like, how's my record store? And it was like, yeah, be trying to get some spins and all this stuff, but all the DJ, everybody's like, yo, this shit is garbage. Oh my
God, man.
So
DJs not feeling Dr. Love.
They wasn't feeling Doc at all, but what he did was, so he affiliated himself with us, Ted Mills, the Blue Magic, who's in the community, James M. Toomey, the Aleems. You know what I mean? So he always affiliated himself with, people in the industry who did make it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But his stuff was always like, there's like, no, man, this is garbage.
I know. We would go out at about 2 a.m. in DC. All right, they would take one of the trucks and we would go in. We got hundreds of Dr. York posters. Dude, we had to go around DC posting up posters. Like if you have a go-go event, we had to put Dr. York over the go-go poster all over town, downtown, the back streets.
Yep.
everywhere. Dr. York, because the cartoon image that they had him, trying to get that sex pose, and it would have the Love Man is back, Dr. York, you know, and we put that out
Mm-hmm.
there.
No,
If
I
he had a
can't
new
miss this
album coming up, that's how we
opportunity right
promote it.
now. I'm rubbing my hands together like Birdman because, see, I do artist interviews over here too. Would you be interested in coming on?
Oh,
You.
come on and doing what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Come on and doing what?
Oh, wait, I ain't got my big mic on. I said we do artist interviews over here as well. Would you be interested in coming on for that?
Yeah. We could do that. Yeah. I'm on the radio also. I'm on WIGO, where we have a radio show called Foursome D's Radio. On Saturdays between 6 and 8, and excuse me, Friday nights between 6 and 8, like tomorrow, and Saturday here in Atlanta, between 12 and 2. We're on every Friday and Saturday. So,
because I mean, I'm an '80s baby, so you know.
yeah. You got to check out the radio show, man. We got so it's us Foursome D's Radio featuring Dr. Pebbly Pooh. You know what I mean? And,
I got some stuff working too, but that's for later. I just shameless plug time. Just hit this email up. I'm finna throw it in the back chat and just title it Trip C. But
absolutely.
We got another DJ in the chat saying your music is trash. DJ Vibes.
I'm telling her we should try that. We should try to, man. Let his stuff rock with our stuff, man. As we pushing our records and all that, man. But they used to be like, "Yo, I miss with y'all stuff, but that Dr. York shit is whack, yo." So, oh man,
get on the source.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how did he get on the source? He paid for it. What do you mean? He paid for that. He paid for that shit.
I figured, but you know. And
yeah, man.
Demetrius, I don't think it's any single person. It's like a couple of little factions running around here all saying that they're the chosen people. So yeah, that's what it is right now.
Yeah.
They can't agree on certain points of doctrine, the irony. And so they can't get along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, they had some interesting videos. I think it was one like a dance video. I mean, it's just hilarious. The music is, and I always thought, and Morpheus, you can speak to this. I always thought it was ironic because on one hand, remember he was always talking about how even on those old True Light tapes, they're talking about music not having soul because they're using synthesizers, keyboards, MIDIs, all these different artificial instruments.
He did a whole thing. Yeah, or simply they started talking about, remember Trans Europe Express? You remember that? Yeah. And it was like, yeah. See, Kraftwerk, right? Kraftwerk. They started it, man, and they moved. Yeah, I remember all that.
That was crazy because I remember, and this was, I mean, here's another irony, because I don't know, he would always get Devo mixed up with Kraftwerk, because I remember back in 1977 when Kraftwerk came out with Trans Europe Express. You know, that joint, we thought it was some brothers put that together. You know,
right?
And then by the 80s, a lot of the hip hoppers and lockers, they was using it, and Devo, when they was coming out with their music in the 80s, and of course their hit. Hold on.
Mm-hmm. Keep talking, Chuck.
I just got lost.
Okay. You keep asking. Didn't you answer that one, Chuck? Where's Bun?
Yeah, they would. Bun is doing good. Bun's good. Last I chatted with him online, he's doing good. He's successful, doing his thing. Family's good. Everybody's good. All's good. I have nothing I could say in the negative. He's doing all right, and I'm happy for him. Much success to that family. The irony I was going to pull up is what Brother Malik just brought up. It was Planet Rock. because Africa Bambaataa was heavily into um, craft work.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't even remember that. Two things, 2 points. The Planet Rock album was recorded in York Studio in New York. The album jacket was drawn by the sister that did much of the artwork in York's publication. Matter of fact, you see that poster. If you ever see the posters of Jesus and Moses splitting the seas, that sister Joyce Hayes did that artwork, who was never paid for it, of course. But that's her trademark. She did the album for Jungle Brothers as well as the Planet Rock album. Also, a lot of people are not familiar with the fact that Africa Bambaataa did a collaboration with one of the heads of the second wave of the punk rock movement, Johnny Rotten. It was called Destruction, not like self destruction, but there's a world of destruction. Johnny Rotten, he was just a wild man from England. He was a part of the Sex Pistols. It was Johnny Rotten. I'm supposed to know all these.
I didn't know that.
Hang with these guys. Johnny Rotten, Sid Vicious. I can't remember the other guys. Like the same. They came on that wave with that group, The Clash. It was The Clash. It was the Sex Pistols and a group called The Dam. Dave Vanian and the group called The Dam. So Africa Bambaataa did a collaboration with him. And I always thought it was strange that he was doing that and he was representing, York, or at least the organization with the 6-pointed star and crescent. And he's with this guy who is pure punk rock. Okay. And I just didn't see the
music
connection.
always how is sounded creepy in the 80s?
What? What was that?
I said, is that why the music always sounded creepy in the 80s?
Who knows? Because that was during that period when, music fusion was coming in. Like Dougie Fresh was trying to fuse or bring a go-go to, the level of popularity outside of a city, like hip hop was going. But go-go was always good. That's our music in DC. Chuck Brown was it was Chuck Brown and EU that took it on a more grander scale. Where Essence, they never really hit it other than bits and pieces of it on Grace Jones's "Slave to the Rhythm" song. It didn't hit the mainstream. So Dougie Fresh will come down to DC from time to time and try to make that blend, salt and pepper. They would try to Kid and Play. They would all try to, they were trying to bring go-go to that level, and it just didn't reach that plateau. But how Africa Bambaataa and Johnny Rotten got together, and what at that time, what Africa Bambaataa represented just didn't click with me. But then a lot of people weren't aware of who Johnny Rotten was, because the song had a nice video to it, and it was popular on MTV or Friday Night Videos or the other one on TBS or some station. They were popular back then, but how Africa Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation, that whole thing didn't match.
Also, that was also on Ralph McDaniels. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. And then you also had, like with the real Roxanne and all that stuff. You had a lot of guys who produced out of England, was linking in with New York, and of course York wanted to get into that thing, because even when he was putting out the Nubian Nation stuff, his whole thing was Africa Bambaataa. What's her name? Kwame, Public Enemy, all these guys, when they're talking about, they were rapping messages, and he's saying that I saw that Public Enemy or he even said that I saw that Marvin Gaye reached more people with his album "What's Going On" than an imam does every Friday giving a khutbah. So that was
Mm-hmm.
one of his excuses or one of his reasons for being in the music industry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cupcake had a question.
Hmm.
How long did the York trial last, and how many times, if he did change lawyers in his defense, how many times did he change lawyers if he did in his defense?
Think that it lasted, and I may be wrong because I don't remember exactly. I believe that it lasted 3 weeks. I think it was a 3-week trial.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I
that
think it was
test
3 weeks.
came back, and I think the one
Um,
with the city was longer than the actual RICO charge trial. The
say that
one what
again.
he had with this, the one what he had with the city by the building codes.
Well, that whole issue, he went to court a couple of times for that on the
Yeah,
zoning
I'm saying
issue.
I think that took longer than the actual trial for the RICO
Yeah,
charges.
that lasted, man, that lasted for a couple of years.
I mean,
They
they
was
didn't
going
just
back and
have a
forth.
book to throw at York; they had the whole
No.
library.
Yeah, well, it was crazy because here you have an
Yeah,
area that's been zoned for residential, um, um, for
the particular building
selling
that he,
goods, and then
yeah,
he
he had
turned
that
another
one as
section.
a storage,
Yeah, storage. He turned yeah, and storage, but he turned that storage area into
a
club,
nightclub.
a nightclub, a bona fide
They
nightclub
brought
where
that
you
all on
had
themselves,
valet.
man. You know what? They
Huh?
brought that all on themselves. They brought
Yeah,
That's the
all
point.
that on
but
That's the
themselves.
it's a
point. But
good thing
people
though,
keep
because then
missing.
that exposed York being nasty. But
Yes, that took it. That put it out there because he was relatively, you know, for
he
the most
kept under
part.
the radar.
Yes, yes, that's the best way to put it. He kept under the radar. But when um, it, I remember we had a Halloween celebration. And when we went down there, the brother Rick or Ampu, which y'all we know now, he was one of the
Hmm.
valets. And so when we drove up, we got out the car, and then he said, "What's up?" And they take the car and they go park it wherever. You had celebrities coming in. You would have Emmanuel Lewis. You might have Left Eye show up, and you go into the club. You see Joe Texas son performing. You see the new Blue Magic performing, and a whole bunch of other artists performing in the Ramesses Dance Club. You go over, you see the bar area, you see the place where you go to buy books, you'll see the DJ booth, you see York up there, you see the little girls up there, you see the people running it up there, you see the concession, you see the girls walking around, with the drinks and all that stuff. It was a club. It even tells you, it says right as soon as you go in, Ramesses Dance Club. And so when
Yep.
the sheriff found out about that, they was like, wait a minute, what is going on here? They didn't know anything about it until that
Mhm.
brother, when a news station did an interview about, the man from Risk, and the brother was trying to bring it down to a level where he's just a normal guy and said, well, this is our club. Can we take a look inside? Sure. Brought him inside, and I still have the video. I should show it to you. And he go inside, and the guy gives him a little tour. And then, of course, the sheriff and other county officials saw it, and they shut it down. Put bolts on the door. And of course, the sheriff was the bad guy because they shut down our church. Because
Mhm.
the talking point that York put out was that in addition to it being the club on Saturday night, Sunday morning it was transformed into the teaching hall.
But it wasn't supposed to
And by
be
that
neither
time,
because it was styrofoam and it was zoned for storage units.
Niggas got
yeah,
comfortable,
They wasn't
yo.
even supposed to have no
yeah,
electricity in there. They had the electricity. It was electric violations, whatever you call those, building
It
code
was,
violations. They
they
had
was like
notified
they was
labor.
like storage. It was like, what y'all
Yeah,
storing in here? Y'all storing niggas in here?
they was dumping piles of trash
hey,
off on the
hey, you know
property, and
what?
they got
You know what?
fined for
When you
that.
go that listen, up until on June 26th, that black pyramid that was so famous, that's where a lot of trash was stored. Junk books, old books, torn. Yeah, when we went up in there, because sometimes we would go in there to have to do cleaning or pick up various items. I remember one night,
Here,
I
Chuck,
was in there.
let
It
me
was me and York and a couple other people, and he was like, "Grab this, move that," and I saw this. It was a, it was a wooden carving of a pharaoh, but the face was a gray. Like a extraterrestrial gray. It had the namas and it had the big eyes. And I'm like, "Oh!" And he was like, "You like that, huh?" He was like, "Damn."
Chuck, let me
I was like,
bust
"Where
out
you
a
get that?"
few
He
of
said,
these.
"Man, people be sending me all kinds of stuff."
Let me bust out a few of
No,
these easy
that's all right.
questions in
So
the
let's get
chat.
back to some of these questions. We'll get back to some of these
Yeah,
questions
so I
because I
can
don't want to
answer
miss
some of
anything.
these easy. Let me answer the easy
No, go
ones.
for it. Go for it. Shit.
Are members still able to correspond with Doc as a whole? No. There's a
No.
set list, right, Chuck?
There is a list of individuals who have what's called a mailing list, but I think that that's all been
Mm,
revoked because when the Nawapians tried to break him out, he lost all of his visitation privileges except
I
from
believe
attorneys.
when Mike came up here, yeah, he only has like a number of people that he can write,
Hmm.
and they can write
Yeah,
him. It's like a little list.
yeah, very
Next
tiny
up,
little. Yeah,
who
yeah.
produced a lot of the products for the group? The members. They made the incense, the oils. They purchased the books. The females made the books. They
Hmm.
sent it out for publishing or whatever. But most of that stuff was done in house by the members.
Yeah. So
That's right.
if a book were to go, it would go to a publisher, and then it'll come back. Someone inside will do the proofreading, and then if it's right, then they'll just have it produced. Now, there was a sister that lived on the property. I'm sorry, there was yeah, she lived on the property. It's a Filipino girl that she was putting the books together herself in addition to some of the bigger books going out. Because some of the larger books, like the Supreme Mathematics series, is God an no, what was it called? Um, extra, E.T. and the Extraterrestrial Involvement. Um, some of those bigger books that cost more, those were being sent out to a printer. Then there was these smaller books that were like handheld books,
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
Yo,
Anunnaki.
Chuck.
special
A
edition
couple of
with
years ago,
announcements.
Huh?
a couple of years ago, I was in Brooklyn, right, and I ran to Sakina,
Hmm.
right, and I went over on by Bushwick Avenue and went down in the basement. Yo, they had a whole printing press thing down there, man. They was just printing these new books up, printing them up, printing them up. I was like, oh,
Yep.
so
Yep. Yeah, a lot of
so
those
people,
old.
think.
Hmm. A lot of those old books, those old Ansar publications was coming out of there.
It
Yeah,
says in
yeah, I
the late
remember that.
80s, York and his brother Oboa
Um,
often
so
had
so yeah,
conflict.
those books, some of them were being put together within the community itself. So if you get a book like the Holy Tabernacle Family Guidebook, Grandma's Words, um, what was it? The Constitution of the United Nawabian Nation of Moors. That was all put together by a young lady that had a little press that lived on the property. I can't remember her name, but it's a Filipino girl was doing that.
Did Doc have any real family members in the organization?
Currently,
Some of his sisters. No, I think he meant back then.
oh yeah, yeah, you did. It was
Mm,
only,
Of
I mean, I
course.
know
And
his brother and his oldest sister, Gail. Yeah, she
man,
was instrumental in as a matter of fact, she is here's another one for you. York's sister, older sister, her son is Kedar, who was the Motown head executive
Yeah,
at the time.
Keto Massenberg.
Kedar Massenberg, yes. So he did have a lot of pull in the music industry. But that in no way, shape, or form is to make anyone assume that Kedar was supporting the organization or anything like that. From what I understand, he wasn't at all. It
Yeah,
was just the
Keto
mother
definitely
who was
was.
into it. Matter of fact, she put a book out called
Mhm.
My Brother, the Extraterrestrial.
Lord have mercy. Demetrius said, "Is there anything that you actually miss about the group, Chuck?"
No, no, nothing. I don't miss anything. Sorry.
And King Keith said, "Was y'all allowed to smoke weed?"
No.
Okay, let me scroll
No.
back up because I think I missed a question or two. Oh, did you see this one about the him and York and his brother?
What?
Who, Oba?
Yeah, he said they often
What about
had
him?
conflicts and Oba formed his own group that wore green and gold garments. Were the conflicts real or part of York's plan?
I don't know. I don't know. Morpheus, you being in Brooklyn at the time, you were around all them guys. His brother more than I.
Yeah. There was conflicts. There was definitely conflicts at the time of being an Ansar, the African Muslim mission, which was Oba in them community. There was definitely conflicts.
Okay, and then Life Is says, "Is Africa Bambaataa still affiliated with the Nuwapians? Considering Bambaataa was exposed for being a prevert, I wonder if he knew secrets about York."
As far as I've seen from the photographs that's been taken, yes. I mean, I got pictures of he with one of York's sons, Prince York. Um, um, I say one of the more recent ones that I saw was a brother who calls himself Nuwapian Assassin, Kedar. He took a picture with him. So yeah, he's still affiliated in some form with the organization. Yes, he still supports as yeah. I don't think he ever won't, because he was one of those staunch supporters of he being innocent, even going down to Tamaray with his entourage in front of the Black Pyramid, talking
Hmm.
about York should be free.
Okay, Cupcake said, "Who was Prince York's mother?"
His name is actually Ramesses Richardson. Ramesses Richardson, and his mother's name is well, I don't guess I have to put her
Remember,
name out
he legally
necessarily.
changed his name to
No, Prince York. No, he doesn't. Matter of fact, he doesn't even
yeah,
go
he
by that now.
did.
He goes by another
Yeah,
name.
he legally changed his name to, I forgot what it was.
But it wasn't Prince York.
No, it's not Prince York.
Yeah,
It's something
yeah.
entirely different.
I think it was Sarnetta that gave him that title because he had tried
Yeah,
to get
Yeah.
he's trying to distance himself.
Omar
Actually,
yeah,
that's what he's trying
Akron,
to
that's
do.
what it is,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is an old version of some of York's names smashed together.
But I think it's Shamila Richardson. Her father, um, he died on an operating table because of it was a botched operation,
Sorry.
and there was a lawsuit that was filed against the hospital, and they won, and it was a considerable amount of money, and yeah, um, that was something that was significant to the organization because a lot of that money went to the organization.
Okay, we've been
So
live about an hour 40. Let's swerve back into Kelly so people don't say we're trying to clickbait.
okay.
Yeah, put a little bit more on Kelly in there because we
Oh, I
briefly mentioned them at first and then we got stuck on the York questions.
well, I mean,
Chat.
other than the fact that you know he had some similar charges that he was convicted on similar charges that York was convicted on.
Mm,
I would not want anyone to be under the assumption that because R. Kelly was relocated to a less secure facility, that by default York is going to be sent to that same facility because he has similar charges. York's situation is far more serious. And also, the reason York is even in the Colorado Supermax is because of he threatening prison officials in Leavenworth, where he was sent. York was sentenced to 135 years in Leavenworth Penitentiary. And because he threatened some of the staff, they felt that he should be relocated to a far secure, because of the outreach that he had on people and the cult being still active, and some of the dirty things they were doing leading up to the trial by threatening the judge, putting the judge's information out, slashing sheriffs and other people's tires in town,
Yeah, putting fake
threatening
liens up
witness,
against
tampering with
people.
witnesses, all that stuff. So he was deemed as a threat to the public, so that he needed to be put into a far secure facility. So he was down there with gas pipe and a whole bunch of other, serious criminals.
Sham God, I know, right? But it's the truth.
Yeah.
Oh, let me
Okay, I can't
drop the
believe
link.
that there are still people believing in New York and their teachings today. Yeah, you're right. I can't believe it either. But then again, yes, you
Right.
can, because some of the adults that didn't get the psychological therapy that they should have gotten from the trauma of watching New York have to be put away, that they've raised children to continue on that insanity. So they're teaching their children that this crazy man was innocent. He was innocent, and that he is all that he said he was. So now we see from time to time, whenever we go silent, they pop back up, and then they go on social media or go on YouTube proclaiming that York is innocent, or coming up with some old debunked theories and putting it back out to the public as if it's something new. And then we got to come back and clear it up again.
Mm-hmm.
It just like never fails. Every 6 months they pop up, because I don't want to do this, for the next few years. I want to stop, like I
Yeah.
have. And so when I stop, I just can't sit back and watch them go out there to lie about old dead information that we cleared up, and trying to put it out to a new group of people who may not be aware of it. So that's part and parcel to why I'm doing what I do from time to time now.
And they're using social media to do it. Things like
Yeah.
TikTok, and TikTok
Mhm.
contains the children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
That's how it
think
works.
he either still at ADX Cupcake or they sent him back to Mexico.
Ooh, Mexico.
El
Who?
Chapo. Because didn't they
I
try to
don't know.
tunnel him
I
out
don't
or
know.
something?
I
I
have
think
no
they
idea.
sent him back to Mexico, but I could be
No, I don't
wrong.
know. But that's
Hey,
but yeah,
Google,
York was housed with him as well.
where is El
York is up there
Chapo?
with the who's who of the worst.
The only reason he ain't with Warren Jeffs is Warren Jeffs at the other security underground.
But you know what? I guess York could have maybe have wanted it that way, because remember, he
Yeah,
was
he's still in there.
always at the top of whatever he claimed to be. If he was Muslim, he was directly related to the Prophet Muhammad. If he was in Freemasonry, he was the expected Brother John to come. He was the supreme sovereign grand commander, inspector general. Um, if he was a Shriner, he used Al Mahdi shrine. He wasn't just a Shriner. This was an African shrine. If he was claiming to be an angel, he would be the highest of all the angels, the warring angel, Michael,
Yeah,
and so
Cupcake,
on and
you
so
right.
on. So he being there with the who's who, the worst of the worst. Hey, maybe you got what you
That's
want.
right
But
up
then again,
his
he did
alley.
say that he allowed himself to be put there because he wanted to see who was really following him. If the loyal members were
Oh,
really loyal and follow the Lamb wherever he goes, he just allowed himself to be incarcerated just so that he'll know for sure who's with him,
he
according
say,
to his publications.
yeah. Demetrius says, "What's your spiritual practice like now, or do you have one?"
My spiritual practice right now is called none. Hey, I'm happy. I don't need it. I mean,
Right.
if people are into it, that's your thing. Knock yourself out. For me, I'm happy. I think I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life, with the love, with the family, with the money, well, business. I'm happy. So my spiritual thing is zero. Think on that.
They
Okay.
want you to come
So,
back and tell them that you done found the meaning of life, Chuck. That's what that
yeah.
is.
Matter of fact, that's what one of them was putting out there. Said, yeah, since Ampu and Mike and all them, they not with it anymore. What did they moved on to better? I'm just happy. Would you consider yourself an atheist? I'm not a member. No, I'm not a member of the atheist, the National Atheist Organization of America. No, I mean,
Yeah, they love
I
big
don't
old
even,
people up
I don't
there.
even know what an atheist is. I didn't even really look into it. Like I said, I'm just happy. I'm just glad to be where I am because I survived that mess.
Mhm.
I'm good.
Right. You survived, you living a decent life, you got a beautiful
Yeah.
wife. And we
I'm
all
good,
wish we
man.
didn't have to come back up here and talk about this over and
Believe
over
me,
and
I
over.
don't want to.
MG is
His
here.
brother, I don't think so. I think you know what? This is funny about Polite. I think that their whole part of his whole point is that what York did and some of the things that he taught that he could use, he would take in what he learned and spit the bones out, I guess, but still be
Mhm.
loyal to the man as being a teacher. I think that's his point regarding that.
Mm.
But from my position, I don't see where people are getting this notion that York was such a supreme teacher. I've studied his doctrine in and out. I've analyzed it, scrutinized it, criticized it. I don't see, and when people say he was such a great teacher, I want to know what was it that he taught that was so superior, that was so different, that was so fascinating that no one else taught.
He had
I
charisma
don't
that
get it.
ain't taught.
I just don't. And one day,
That's all it
maybe
is.
someone will.
Some smarmy charm. They've been studying serial killers and cult leaders for years, and that's as close as you can come to understanding it.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, and just talking about the teachings, you know, what York was telling us and putting to the public about devils. Matter of fact, when the book came out called Black Devils, and then there was an audio that he released called Are There Black Devils? And he gave various scenarios on what constituted a black devil. And on one part, he was saying that these black devils were the people from India. I mean, he would, instead of saying India, he would use the cover word or the dog whistle, Hindus. The Hindus were the original black devils. They had black skin or brown skin, but long straight hair, and they were part of that 200 fallen angels that came from the constellation of Procyon. And these are your black devils, and Adam was from that bloodline. You know, and while we were vilifying people from India, Indus Valley civilization and culture, meanwhile York was surrounding himself with books or publications from various swamis and writers of esoteric teachings in Hindu, and not even Hinduism, but a lot of the occult publications from, I can't remember the guy's name, sadly, I can't remember his name, but if you go to my website, nuwabianism.com, and go to the plagiarism section, you'll see how York plagiarized a number of publications from this particular
Mhm.
author who had a pen name as well. Raksham, I can't remember his name, but
Oh, and worth mentioning, the last time you was over here with the Jonathan and oh, I can't remember her name right now. When we did the Sumerian live,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
remember they were
Oh yeah,
talking about
Joshua
Sitchin?
Bowen. Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
towards the
okay.
end, yeah.
Said, yeah, York got those 200 fallen angels from the Book of Enoch. Yeah, parts of that, but he that like the 200, he would make reference to the Book of Revelation. But yeah, you're right. That was coming out of the Book of Enoch. Um, as far as Zechariah Sitchin, That was always a funny story because, see, here's something that people don't know on the outside. All right. So in 1992, in fact, September
Mm-hmm.
1992, York started to shift the doctrine and started talking about um, his whole extraterrestrial thing, and that the beings were from the planet Risk were also piloting the extraterrestrial craft called Nibiru. Okay. So that was coming out of the fact that the sisters were reading the entire Earth Chronicles series that Zechariah Sitchin had put together. So the 12th planet, um, uh, I can't remember all of his books. The Book of Enki, all these publications by Zechariah Sitchin, York was regurgitating it and giving it, or I like to say, he was taking Zechariah Sitchin's teachings and dipping it in chocolate. So everybody in like the Sumerians are being black, and the Anunnaki, they were black, and then he himself, York, was an Anunnaki. He was the grandson of Anu, which is an Akkadian. It's an Akkadian deity, Anu. So he's saying that's who he was, and so his firsthand information was based on what he knew as being Umautu. Okay, Umautu, which was Utu is a Sumerian um, a term for a deity for the sun, or for something that's bright or white. All right. So in doing that, he was talking the same thing that Sitchin was talking. He apparently, or at least the sisters who was feeding him the information from the books, believed that Zechariah Sitchin knew what he was talking about, or he was being honest in what he was talking about. But Zechariah Sitchin was just as much a charlatan as York was. And it wasn't until about 2013 that York, by way of the organization in one of the, because at that time they could visit York and get information from him, he had threw Zechariah Sitchin under the bus at that time. He started saying that there was a Jewish man who was making false statements about um, the Sumerian tablets, and that he was put there by the government to deceive people. That was how they started to frame who Zechariah Sitchin was. And by that time, the cult members had started, and just before York had got incarcerated or arrested in 2002. In 2001, he started getting the first edition of a Sumerologist by the name of John Halloran, John H. Halloran. And he has a publication called Sumerian, not encyclopedia, not Sumerian dictionaries. I can't remember the name of it. It's a yellow publication. And some of the stuff that you see, like in a book called Is Jesus God? It's the revised edition. It's about 300 or 400 pages. In that publication, York gets heavily into Sumerian. Let me put it this way. His interpretation of what he thinks is Sumerian in the books, making statements, showing wedge scripts that do not say anything of what he's saying. Okay, but he was using that author. It's called the Sumerian Lexicon by John H. Halloran. So during that time, I contacted, because I like to contact the big people because I don't like going through the middleman. So I contacted John Halloran and I showed him that someone is using your publication, and I specifically asked him about certain things that are in this publication. Okay, and I have the emails. I even put it in some of the articles on plagiarism. And Halloran, of course, said that I don't know anything about this, never heard of this person. That's not in my publication. So some of the things that York would say or write about a topic pertaining to, say, a text, say in Nibiru, that's not in John Halloran's book. Listen. First of all, Nibiru is not even a Sumerian word because York had spent a lot of time saying the Sumerians, all the stuff about Sumerians.
Hey, 17.
Nibiru is not a Sumerian word. That is an Akkadian word. In fact, it is Neberu, not Nibiru. It's Neberu, and it was just a term that described the planet Jupiter. As Neo-Babylonian astrologers charted the various planets, the one that was the brightest at certain points of the year that appears to move because it's stationary, or you see it in the night sky, and then it traverses or crosses the sky until the morning. That was the planet or the star that crossed, because in Akkadian writing, they depict it as having 3 suns. Okay. Or Dingir, Dingir, Dingir.
Because is that what Joshua was talking about? Sorry, go ahead.
It's a star-like determinative. I'm sorry, am I going too far with this?
No, I was saying, is that what Joshua was talking about when he said instead of breaking down the word, he was breaking down and translating each letter of the word?
Yeah. Like you was like Zechariah Sitchin was, and York did this too because York copied Sitchin. Dingir, he would separate, because Dingir is this little thing that looks like a star. Okay. Maybe I should show my deck on screen. But it's the thing that looks like a matter of fact, you keep talking. Let me see if I can pull my screen up.
Okay. 17, this is why I didn't tell you to slide through this one. I know you be a detective when you high, but this ain't the kind of detective work you like to do.
Hold on. Let me see. Because my computer. Let me go to my Sumerian section. No, see, nothing is coming up for some reason. My computer's been on all night and all day, and if I turn it off, I mean I gotta go out of the chat. I can't even pull it up. Nope, I can't pull nothing up.
Doing tonight? Welcome. While we are taking this brief.
Wait a minute. I got an idea. Let me do this. I'm gonna share my screen, but I'm gonna go to a because I like people who teach Medu Neter. The Egyptian language, they have something called a TLA, which is a valuable piece on going and breaking down specific words and signs and things. And that's one of the things that I use. Let me pull something up real quick. I'm gonna go to
my forever, Bennett, everybody.
God. Okay, yeah, we can do it this way. Okay, so that Dingir sign, you see it as being a determinative, which is not pronounced, but it's something that you'll see, and then what follows that is usually a deity's name. Like if you see it, you'll see like Ninhursag or Inanna. You'll see a deity. As long as you see that little star, let me pull it up. God,
yeah, that's the Damon Pryor dude. Chuck mentioned that earlier. You must have missed it, Pickle Man.
Hold on. Let me do something here real fast. I just want to show something. Let this be as an example, and then we can move it on from here. Let me pull this up. Okay, let me share this real fast. I just want to show this to 2 people. But yeah, this was what Dr. Joshua Bowen was pointing out. Let me share this real fast. Is this the one? Yeah. Okay. You see my screen? Is it up yet?
Yeah, you might want to zoom out a little bit if you can't. Well, it's we can see the cuneiform and the transliteration below it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you see my screen right now. Okay, so just give you an example. So, if I see, okay, so this little D, right? This is usually in transliteration. So if I do in, I'm spelling it. All right. So if I do in Anna, right? Okay. All right. So, no, I'm doing something wrong. I forgot how to do it. But anyway, the point is this. So, this little sign right here, This is a determinative which use. Oh, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. Um,
Nuwapic is basically a Pig Latin version of Arabic made by children, and York fleshed it out a little bit and called it Nuwapian.
yes. Yeah. That's exactly it. Um, okay, so this right here, this is an example. So here, if you look at the name Enlil in transliteration, so you have
Mm-hmm.
this little D, which is the determinative, so you don't pronounce it. So this would be just Enlil. Okay, I'm not going to get into too much of the grammar, like datives and all this past particles, none of that stuff. But this is real simple. So if you look at something like Enlil, where you have this syllable, you have dingir, this syllable, and then you have in and lil. Okay, so your these this is two separate syllables because in Sumerian cuneiform, one word could be just one syllable. So the syllable here, dingir, is I give you another example. It can represent a determinative, which is that little sign. So if you read it in a text, it lets you know that what follows it is a god name, or you can do it like this on, or let me do it this way. You'll say the god, the Sumerian deity on, converted, and then you got, you see? So on is also the Dingir sign, you see? So it could be
I'm gonna
a
trust you
determinative,
because it
it
make
could
a little
be
sense to
the
me.
name, it could be the name of a god, and it can also be used as a pronunciation for used for pronunciation purposes. Um, Let me see. Mu on
Yeah, I get the
do.
concept. It'll sink in
Oh,
later.
you get
That's
the
why I
point?
don't do
Okay.
languages.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mu is a term that's used for year, on, and do or do three as it should be. It should be do three, and do three is a verb meaning to build. Not that Anu's building anything, but Mu'andu is or he built for him or he built for someone. Okay, but that's a the whole story. But the point I was making in that was that they used three ding gears to determine to show the reader that um they're talking about a star, and it was usually just attached to the Babylonian supreme hero who was um, Marduk, and York claimed to be Marduk. Check that
Of
out.
course he did. Yo,
Hey Maya, bro,
ain't it a picture that's
brother
supposed
Maya.
to be Jesus that slick look like York too? He wanted to
What?
be everybody.
He was everybody, and that's what I was saying. So he being in prison and being at the in the highest levels of the who's who of criminality, York got his wish. He's up there with the big boys,
Hmm.
you know, Gas Pipe
And just for
Castle.
those of y'all
Um,
that don't know, Chuck is currently studying ancient Sumerian.
oh yeah, yeah,
Correct?
yeah.
You
I'm
still
I'm
studying
I'm a
that?
student enrolled, been about 2 years now, and I'm about to do another class. Matter of fact, I'm going to be having a class with Megan Lewis next month. We're going to be doing Sumerian classes there as well. But it's
Oh,
going to be at the
cool.
University of Washington. So we're going to be doing it over there. I'm not going to be teaching, but I'm going to be in a class, of course, because I want to get as many classes as I can get because I need to have this
Hmm.
thing, perfected, even though it takes a long time. But I'm there. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
But where we going from here? Oh, Yahweh ben Yahweh.
You driving the boat tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, let's try to hit some of the
Don't pay
questions.
no attention to that comment. Don't pay no attention to that.
I see. I see. I see.
That's
Okay,
our
where did
friendly
Nuwapic come
neighborhood
from?
troll.
Real fast. But you had hit it on the head about Nuwapic being nothing more than Arabic. But here's the point, and then just to fill it up, at the trial of York, this came up, and Nikki Lopez as well as Habiba had to explain, and or not even had to, but when the questions was asked, it was just talking about how when in upstate New York, by the time they moved to upstate New York, a lot of the kids who lived in the communities, they were speaking Arabic. Okay. And so over time, they developed their own form of Arabic. It was still Arabic, nevertheless, but they had a very dialect in how they pronounce words. And so you're hearing that, saw that as another money-making scheme. And so he released a publication called How to Read Nuwapic and passed it off as being our language. You know, initially it was Nubic because see, we being a quote Nubians, he had the old Sudanese script and what they would call Nubic, and he published that and was selling that, and we were taught to read and write that form of script. On the flip side, he still had like his son at his time, the son who passed away, or actually was murdered in a club in New York, the brother Yadalahi, who was fluent in Arabic. He was teaching Arabic in the community in New York. Okay. But Nuwapic was also a side language that we were to learn. Nuwapic didn't come about until after he went up to upstate New York, and then it was put in a book form, and then there was a larger form of that language, which was it was a 500-page book under the Supreme Mathematics series, How to Read Nuwapic, and that had everything from the grammar, the dictionary, everything you want, because Nuwapic is what was classified as a conlang, a modern self-made language like Klingon language. Trekkies, Star Trek, yeah, Klingon language. So it's a conlang. It's something that, but their problem was, and what York made the mistake of doing was trying to say that his Nuwapic was the ancient language of the Neteru. The ancient Egyptians spoke that language. Oh, actually, he said the ancient Egyptian deities
came down and translated.
And then he said that the Anunnaki was speaking it. And then he started fusing the two together, and then that's when it gets into that twisted doctrine. But and to make it real clear, yeah, it started off with the children in Brooklyn, New York, that eventually some of them moved to upstate New York, and that was when York came up with the idea to market the dialect that the kids were speaking, and then start adding Hebrew, Spanish, and other things to try to bring it to today, like using the word for computer, even have a word for child molester in it. Ironically, I was looking through my files, and I was like, damn, you got a word for pedophile in Nuwapic.
In Nuwapic.
I've never heard anybody use it before, but yeah, it's there. Ain't that something? Well, now what was it? Somebody said something about Yahweh ben Yahweh. Yahweh ben
no,
Yahweh.
That was just ignore that, Chuck. That's just the resident troll.
Okay, I get it. All right, no problem. Yeah, that's another. I'll keep saying irony, but everything is so ironic with this stuff.
Yeah, Yahweh ben Yahweh's son and hooked up with some celebrity. I forget which one.
Yeah, that girl that was. I know you're talking about. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Yeah, and some of the old outfit from Yahweh ben Yahweh are the ones you see at Donald Trump's rallies. Blacks for Trump. Those are Yahweh. Those are Yahweh ben Yahweh members. Going all the way back.
Cult people doing cult stuff that they usually do, pushing politicians for the cover. Sad and shameful.
Oh yeah,
I don't know, because something might be going on with him because he tried out a whole bunch of women and a whole bunch of babies.
Yeah.
So,
where are we now? Let me get over here.
I think we done answered all the questions in the chat. Any wind up questions?
We gotta have some more.
Yeah, because after you mentioned, you finna get peckish. It's about dinner time over there, ain't it?
Who, me?
Oh yeah, Cupcake had do you know York stole any Scientology?
Scientology? I don't recall because I never really read any of their publications, but I do remember a live lecture that he gave where he was saying that this was back in 1992. It's on the CD called "Was Adam and Eve Extraterrestrial?" Something like that, where he's saying that the Scientologists are waiting to see what he has to say. Because he was saying that a lot of the stuff that the Scientologists are saying, they're waiting for him, meaning York, to put out before they start talking about it.
If anything, he might have snatched something out of L. Ron Hubbard's books, but not out of Scientology directly.
Yeah, I don't know because, like I said,
Because that seems
he
like that
never.
would have been a
I
good
never
fit
seen
with
any of
the
their
rest of the
publications.
list.
When someone would come up with me with Dianetics, I always either pushed the book away or kicked it. I mean, that's I was in DC, so
Mhm.
that's what we did. If we go on a walk route, if I'm downtown, if I go out, say I go on 11th Street and walk all up and down 11th and F, or walk up by DuPont Circle, you might see them around because they had a facility up in DuPont Circle in DC. So I knew about them, but I just never engaged in them. You know,
Mhm.
yeah. So I wouldn't even talk too much about that L. Ron Hubbard and whatever when it came to that.
Yeah. We got any wind up questions? Oh, yeah. Wind up questions. Do we have any? I don't think we done skipped no questions. I just scanned back through here again.
Because,
And
like
I
I
don't
said,
see
I'm
anything that we
going to talk about
missed.
this
Because I
guy
mean,
much more.
look, we finna put the stuff we done already talked about out again. Cause
Yeah, I don't. That's why I
it's
try not
like,
to. I don't want to overlap with
your
some stuff
memory
that's
was
on the
it's been
direct.
almost, me and Vibes was talking about it yesterday. It's been almost 10 years since we all met up. So it's been a decade. So it's 10
Yeah,
years worth of York interviews on this joint.
yeah.
So I'm
I mean, they're
quite
all over the
sure
place.
that's
Yeah, but I
right.
did some last
From
month I
so
did some
many people
interview.
too.
Huh?
I said from so many people talking about on just this channel.
Mm-hmm.
As many
Mm-hmm.
as like you and came over here, Tariq then came over here, not Tariq, yeah, Tariq,
Yeah, Tariq
Tar
was over here.
Noonan,
Mike,
yeah.
Michael
No, I
Garcia
had meant
was
to say
there.
Tar Noonan when I said Tariq, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are enough people that are talking about cults and those who support pedophilia, that don't want to, um, they don't want to acknowledge the fact of what the cult leader did, and they're all over the place. Well, I wouldn't say all over the place. Let's put it this way: they've been marginalized down to certain platforms. You know, um, one platform gives the Nawapians full range, and I think the show that I did with Killer Police, I think that pretty much silenced them. Well, after they hear this, now
Yeah.
they're gonna feel they're gonna feel they want to get out of there because they don't want to like the
They
idea of being
hiding over
silenced. But
there
if I
on
have to
big
go and hit them, I
old
hit them again.
TikTok. Yeah, they
Yeah.
over there hiding on big
Do
old
you get
TikTok.
threats
We got
from
something for
speaking up?
that too.
Um, do I get threats? I've been getting threats from the Wapians since I did come out because I was pretty high profile in the cult. With what I used to do, I was the only Nuwapian that had a series, a radio series. Dr. Larry Morgan debates the Christians, debates the Hebrew Israelites, debates. And York would take those. Matter of fact, Bennett, I think you're from DC. WOL, the Mo Better Man show, Joe Madison's show. We would go on there on the Mo Better Man show. It was called Scripture Unlimited, and he would air it on Wednesdays at midnight or Tuesdays at midnight, and he would do it on Saturdays. When I would be the guest, we would stay on sometimes for 8 straight hours arguing, debating Christians, and then I would branch off and I would call the Israeli church or Hebrew Israelites, start arguing with them. We would do all this stuff. So a lot of those recordings that we had, whenever we did something, we would always send them down to headquarters. And York liked what was being done with the arguments, the debates with various groups. So he put them together, cut them up, put them into different forms, and released them on CD and the cassette tapes. And they started. The first one was called "Students of Nawapo," and then he just had me do it, and it brought in revenue. And from what I understand from the people who used to call, they would say that because of what was going on with the zoning commission and he having to go back and forth to court over it, he liked to listen to the tapes because they were so funny, arguing with these people. So as far as
Mhm.
threats are concerned, yes, I've gotten death threats. Matter of fact, it's ironic again. The brother here that mentions the Wapian assassin, I saw him on Facebook before he blocked me, and saying, death to you, death to your family. And then whenever there would be like an earthquake in Hawaii, I guess he didn't know that Hawaii is 8 islands. And so whenever there's an
Yes.
earthquake or a volcano going off, he would say, yeah, yeah, you know what's going to happen to Chuck now because, they got a volcano going off over there in Hawaii, you know. And it's like, dude, that's on the Big Island. I'm on the Big Island. That's Mount Nakea. We don't have that. We have Haleakala here, and it's not active, so we ain't got to worry about that. So he didn't know about that. So the point I was making is I've gotten many death threats from the Wapians. They're not going. They don't. No, they couldn't even defend their master teacher when they came to take him, even though he was picked up away from the property. But when they came on the land, all those guns that the Wapians had at the pylons, or some of the 2 security guards, Tron and Matim, I think it was Matim at the time, they didn't do anything. They stepped out of the way. So no, they're not built like that. And besides, I've always invited them to come over to the island. I could take them down to the gun range in Lahaina, and we can have a shootout.
Sham God say, where's Nuwapian Assassin?
Huh?
Sham God say, where's Nuwapian Assassin?
You know what? I was wondering what had happened to him because after I did that show, usually he'll comment or he'll say something, and because he likes to refer to me as the slanderer. I mean, I always like to be at the top of the ladder when it comes to that. But I always let him know everything I say, I back it up. But I just saw that he went live this past week, and he was talking about their innovative form of Nuwapic. But I have not heard him speak about anything as far as doctrine is concerned lately. I don't know. Maybe he was in the hospital. I don't know. If he did or was, I wish the brother well. Because I don't dislike him. I actually like Nuwapian Assassin. That was my man back, in DC. I think that if there were any Nuwapian that I would want to debate, that I would debate for free, it would be Nuwapian Assassin. Simply because he was an Ansar. We were, in the same community at one time. He knows the doctrine well. He knows Nuwapic. I think that would be a formidable debate. I think that would be good. But yeah, I wish the brother well no matter what. Thanks, Brother Chuck. Wajaro, I am free from Son of Son. I hear you, brother. Yeah. Yeah. Because at that time, I think it was the time when the brother Ampu or the Wajaro, they and the brother named, I can't remember his name, when they put up the Facebook channel, and for anyone in the audience, if you can, go to the Facebook group, USA versus York. That is the most analytical web page site group that you will find online when it comes to the York trial. And the questions, the confrontations, the documentation, that is the elite location to find information on the York trial, from motions, documents, trial information, because of the brother Anpu Wajaro, he was the one who was there, and he shared more than enough documentation on that. Matter of fact, here's another strange thing. The brother Ampu and the scholar Michael Heiser were the 2 individuals that were instrumental in setting up my website. I spoke with Michael Heiser, who passed away recently, but Michael Heiser, and of course the brother Ampu, in setting this up, because initially, while he was talking about the case, I was out talking about the doctrine. And from time to time, these 2 would get crossed over. I didn't talk much. I didn't even talk anything about the trial. It wasn't until they started going after me that I started saying, how do I get at them, as opposed to just keep talking about the doctrine. And that's when I started getting trial transcripts, because he was the one that was supplying me with the sealed transcripts, which are no longer sealed except in a redacted form. So he's the one that was instrumental in talking about the trial issues. So that's something that he was, and I'm eternally grateful for that. Clearing up a lot of the misinformation that people didn't know existed at the time. I was also, let me see, I was always asked why didn't, here's a good question. I was always asked why they didn't fight and why York didn't try to run. He is going down forever. He was in a company of one, two, three, I think it was four females.
Yeah, they
They
got
had
stopped
already
in the
had him
grocery
under,
store parking lot.
yeah, he was already under surveillance. So they already knew where he was. And when they got him, they raided the property at the same time. So they already knew he wasn't there. And they wanted to get him because they didn't want to have another one of those Waco type things. I think
That's
the lead FBI person, the prosecutor, the the attorney, the assistant prosecutor, they were pointing that out. So they and I don't know about any body bags, but I think they did have that just in case because we did know they had firearms because I saw them myself. And plus, they did confiscate a number of rifles, AK-47, Glock 9 millimeters, etc. That was at the property, and of course, York had himself. So I'm glad nothing happened, because these are just regular people that just got caught up in the midst of believing a man who portrayed himself as being what he was not. And they was just as all of us were victims just as much as some of the children because it wasn't all of the children. It was just a select group that were groomed by other adults to be part of that inner circle. So some of the kids who said, "Well, I was there. I didn't see nothing happen." Of course not. You weren't selected. It was certain girls and boys that York took a likening to, and if he wanted them, he would have either Habiba, Najla, Khadija, or some other adult
and don't
groom
forget
them
that's where the
on to how or would
trafficking.
they be willing to have sex with him.
Yeah, that's
They
how
would
the trafficking
participate.
across state lines came up because he was snatching the children while the parents was off and taking them upstate and later on down to Georgia.
Um, okay, so the transporting minors across state lines for the purpose of illegal sexual activity. Um,
The
he
Disneyland
see
trip.
this is what people say. Well, he he didn't. I drove down with my parents, and if you know what the Mann Act consists of, it is anyone who transports or causes to transport. Why you say causes?
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a list of names from upstate New York of those who are to come down at a specific time, and those individuals were the listed victims. Certain listed victims were brought down because he was fearful that this person may say something. Because this one girl was always so loud and very expressive and very rebellious. York feared that she would tell. So he had made sure that she comes down. And then another girl her age, she would come down because they stayed close. And he was feared that either one of them would talk. So he caused for individuals to be transported across state lines, where in the destination state, being Georgia, the sexual activity increased. It continued. So it wasn't just those listed victims that were in upstate New York in 1992, but it was also certain individuals who came on the property that lived there that were listed as well, who participated in certain acts, and the victims who had other females that were participating in the sex acts with York. They were witnesses to some of the things that they did, from Kathy Johnson um, to Esther Cole, people who were adults that were having sex with the minors. They started off by giving oral to either a boy or would digitally penetrate one of the girls or boys and digitally penetrated, sticking a finger in the anus. Now, what was that? It's crazy that when I see videos of the Wapians teaching in recent times, it gives a LBGT vibe. Well, that was one of the things. I don't know if it came from York necessarily, but in some of the quote updates that individuals were to go back and tell the congregation via YouTube that that Nuwapians should embrace LGBT, and when they have their parades, Nuwapians should participate.
Yeah, all
I
that
mean, I'm just saying that
homosexual
was
stuff.
one of the updates. Yeah. So what?
Yeah.
So what? Dr. York practicing right? I have no idea. I have no
Well,
idea. Marcus, I have no idea because
we got a speculation because of that picture.
yeah, you gotta speculate because well, the picture may have some validity because much of the doctrine was taken from um, mystical esoteric books coming from
Because that's what was
19,
big. Yeah.
1914, 1915 on up. So again, as he vilified those who practice quote Hindu religion or Indus Valley culture, he was embracing it and putting it in his publications, claiming it to be from him. The Holy Tablets is a classic example. If you read some of the mystical portions of the Holy Tablets, he goes into great lengths to talk about Hindus as being bad or evil or the original Black Devils, those 200 and fallen. But at the same time, when he gets into the mystical teachings, he starts to use their teachings, and that's the hypocrisy of a Dr. York. And I put in air quotes Dr. York because he was not a doctor, not at all. Dr. York was just a stage name that he used when he was pretending to be a good singer, just like he being an imam. That was all for show. You know, he was pretending to be an imam, pretending to be a Hebrew, pretending to be a Moor, and pretending to be an extraterrestrial.
Yes, we can't forget the alien vibe.
Yeah.
Oh
And
my
he abused a
goodness.
lot of
It's
people.
like you have to stretch to think of stuff to talk about with York because you done gone over it all.
What are you talking about? The Pickle Man?
Not, I'm just saying in general. New
coulda
questions
said
to
that.
ask about York.
Yeah. Yeah, that pickle thing, you know, like I said, I just did that just for because I thought it was funny. And then the brother Malik
Hey, Maximo.
Crisis was a Cuban Crisis. He was the one that took that and started messing with them about
Yeah,
that.
ran with it.
But it was fun though, you know, because I mean, look how stupid it. The whole idea
Pickle
of
Man
it.
Records.
Pickle
Stupid,
Man.
man.
I had look when I first
Right,
when we
Pickle
first
Man
did it,
Predator.
I had to find a picture of a pickle man. There wasn't nothing online at the time. It was nothing. It was unheard of. Pickle man. So I think I found it in one of those books called The Matrix. It was a big, giant series of space alien that kind of stuff. It's called the Matrix books, and I think that's where he found it. The pickle man. And then you'll put it in this book along with the predator being real and the creature from the Black Lagoon. You see, being older myself, a lot of the stuff that York liked, I kind of remember because my father used to watch a lot of those old westerns. You know, the Rifleman, Hopalong Cassidy. Uh, Movies from the 1950s. John. A lot of that stuff I'm familiar with because I used to watch it with my father. My father were very close. He was an insomniac, which by default now I'm an insomniac, and we would watch a lot of stuff on the Late Show. This is before cable television. So if he would joke about Popeye and Wimpy, and they say, "Oh, I'll gladly pay you on Tuesday," I can laugh about that because that was something that I watched in some of the reruns before going to school back in the 70s. So when he started talking about when he was in a book called The Science of Healing, he gives this elaborate breakdown about extraterrestrials in the ancient world, from ancient Egypt to Easter Islands, of course, the Bible, the Sumerians, all these groups, because he was coming literally word for word from the documentary, not the book, from Eric von Daniken, but the documentary Chariots of the Gods. And my father and I would watch Chariots of the Gods. It used to come on CBS Channel 9 in DC at about 1:30 a.m. And we would watch it until the TV goes off, and then I go to sleep. You know, and I remember specifically because there was a scene in it that I always remembered. And when I used to, there was a time I went to Arrow's Video or Blockbuster, one of them, and I rented the documentary because it was my father had passed some time later, and just watching the documentary, it just kind of reminiscing in those moments we used just to sit and laugh at it. And and when I saw that, I remember because when I was studying and teaching the information from the books, I always kept everything to memory. So there were passages I remembered from the book that as I'm watching the documentary, I'm like, oh, I heard that somewhere. And then I had to go back and look at the book and say, damn. So I knew this is where it's coming from, but it wasn't enough to pull me away from the organization. But I knew that the Chariots of the Gods video that you can find on YouTube today, if you take the Science of Healing book, you'll see when he starts talking about the Mahabharata and Manchu Picchu, Chichen Itza, all this stuff like ancient Mexico, all that stuff is in York's book that he got directly. And it is not just plagiarism. He's literally going according to the English narration from the video. Yes.
So, Jose Pacheco, shout out Peppa Pig. Does York think he going to be free someday?
He might. I don't know. I remember in one of the letters he was saying, "Get me out of this place."
Oh yeah, when he was talking about it was roaches and then all this, and his bed wasn't acceptable.
Yeah. Look at it this I mean,
Bennett wants to know his clinical diagnosis.
Oh, he was classified as a paranoid schizophrenic, having periodic episodes of delusional. I forget how. It's on the website. I think it was in in some of the earlier posts. I think Ampu put that article up because he and I were writing different articles early on. He put up that one because he had the documentation on York's diagnosis, because it was York's legal team at the time. This was before the trial in 2003, because York was claiming to be a Native American. He was claiming to be of the Yamasee Native American, in that although he respects, because he stood up in court and said this in the pretrial, that he, with all due respect to your legal system, I feel that I should be released to my tribe, and a trial ensues from within the tribe and not from the United States government, which I do not recognize. Put that in an article. You got to go to the NewWabinism.com, go to the leader, and you'll see all these different questions about that. And it's the ones further and the older ones. Those older ones are myself and Ampu working together until I pretty much run the website by myself at this point. Not that anything happened, but it's just that he was doing that to try to get it going,
get it up and running.
That's when I put it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's definitely having mental issues, because even Jacob York made this point clear when we was on he was on Star in the Morning and on Sarnetta show. He was talking about how mental illness does run in that family, and even his sister shared with me how his great grandmother on his father's side was committed to an asylum. So yeah. And we see that. And I thought it was ironic, and I was going to do a video of this myself. So people who like to say that when York was when he was pleading guilty, everyone knows that video when they see York coming, he's looking all unkempt and he's looking crazy and other stuff, right? All right. Before I really got into the whole Nawabi thing, before I even became an Ansar, I was, I studied organized crime. Okay, I loved it. I just was fascinated by it, especially since I was in a situation where I could have gotten killed in when we were in Little Italy. It was myself and a brother. We left a club in D.C. and we flew up to New York because he was from the Bronx and he's like, "Yo, you want to go to New York tonight?" I was like, "Fuck it, let's go up there." And so we went up there because he had some girls in New York University that he wanted to hook up with. And so we stayed in New York University in a dorm with some girls, and we lived there for about a week before we were discovered and had to leave. Um, so he gave me a tour of the Bronx and he gave me a tour of Manhattan, and we went down to Little Italy. And there was an incident where we went into a bar. I don't know if it was the Gemini Club. It was some notorious mafia hangout because we would see the guys playing that little Italian. They some kind of Italian ball thing they used to play in New York. So we went down to this place, and so we went in, and there was this dude that stood up with a pool stick, and cussed us out to get the f out of here. And being from DC, I'm like, you know, and dude grabbed me and said, "Yo, let's go," like that. And so to make a long story short, after I had started finding out about, the different places in that particular one could have been, I'm not sure because I don't remember. This was back in 1986, 85, 85, 86. And as far as I know, I was told it was something like that. But anyway, the point was I started getting into this, and then I really got into going to the libraries back then. Gotti and them was out, and it was a big thing. Well, I don't think they were out there. They was just got arrested, but all this organized stuff. So the big man who was in Manhattan, it was Vincent the Chin Gigante. Okay, so the Chin, his whole gimmick was to pretend to be crazy. And he would come out and, see him with one of his sons and another relative, and they would be carrying him to the limousine or something. And, he always played like he's crazy, got his hair all wild, unshaven, in a bathrobe or something like that. So I was like, damn. I was just looking at the video where York is stumbling to the mic and pretending like he's crazy. And then I looked at the video clip of Vincent, the Chin, playing the crazy role, and I was like, there you go. Because I knew that York had that same dumb look on his face when he was pretending to be the incarnation of Osiris at the 1997 Zed Festival on the property, 404 Shadydale Grove. And so when he did that pretending to be crazy thing by, looking all, and not trying not to say anything, but you were still coherent enough to answer those questions. It just took me back to that. Oh yeah, he was pulling the Vincent the Chin thing, and he was well aware of it because everybody in New York at that time. Hell, I was in D.C. and I knew about the crazy mafia. They call it the I forget what kind of Don. You got the Teflon Don, and then you had, I can't remember what they called him, but it was a disparaging thing in reference to him being crazy. But yeah, that was what I always got from there. Whatever happened to Victoria Broussard, York's last attorney? The last video I saw of her was she's pulling the same con game on the stupid Nawapians that she's been doing for years. Is that we want to get him repatriated, we want to get him freed, and so she did a video thing saying, we need money, we need your support, we need you to petition to the president to try to have his sentence commuted, and on and on and on, or have him repatriated to Liberia as if he's a Liberian diplomat, which is another lie. Do you think, any comment on that?
I don't even read that shit.
Huh?
I don't even know who Boogeyman Bob is, but they halfway troll.
Oh, I see it. Do you think? Yeah, okay. All right.
I'm gonna put myself on mute for a minute. I need to step away from my computer.
All right. So I remember that old fake and crazy. Yeah, yeah. And it is in my opinion that York kind of wanted to use that because it gave him wiggle room. So when he's pleading guilty, he can always come back later and say, "Oh, they drugged me," because the whole thing was that he didn't want us to see him plead guilty because he was saying that that was his crucifixion. And so we were told not to go to the courthouse. I mean, his family members were there, but the Wapians were told not to come because he didn't want us to see him in that. But to his to his anger, it was recorded. One of the guilty pleas was recorded and it was uploaded to YouTube, and that was for the state. That was for the state guilty plea. Yeah. Did York ever brag about? No. You know, here's another strange thing. Yeah, no, he never talked about that. What did he? Wait a minute. I think maybe he did. I don't remember. It's kind of foggy. But what I do remember is that in one book, it was called Anunnaki, no, Nibiru and Anunnaki Fact or Fiction. I think that was a book. That was the book that the little Filipino girl put together. He took some photos from outside his bedroom window that he was claiming was a ship. And this reminds me of a question that came up early on that I saw, but I was going to comment on it, but I don't remember where I saw it. But it was in effect talking about Hale-Bopp.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah,
what was
I'm
the
scrolling
Wapian
down.
connection with Hale-Bopp?
I basically remember it. Yeah, at that time when the two scientists, I forget their first names, but Hale and Bopp were their names, and that meteor that they saw was named after them because they were the ones who discovered it at NASA. Um, the Heaven's Gate cult had, I think this is it. Yeah, right here. Didn't he say Nibiru was following him? Yeah, that was something that the group called Heaven's Gate was talking about. Now, at that time, we were working on the Black Pyramid, and York was saying after they had committed suicide, York went out of his way saying, you know, how my man say, N word, Wapians don't. I said, we don't commit suicide. N words don't commit. He didn't say the N word. You know what I'm talking about. He said that we don't commit suicide. That's what they do. And then he grabbed me. He grabbed the brother Damon Pryor, and he said, "You see this?" He said, "You see this? What we're building? Why would we commit suicide if we're building all of this down here? So go back and tell them that, you know." And as a matter of fact, he said, "Look," he pointed up in the sky. He said, "You see that right there? That's Hale-Bopp. You see that behind it? That's Nibiru." So yeah, he said that Hale-Bopp was being trailed by Nibiru. And then as Nibiru didn't seem to manifest, he said that it got stuck in the Pegasus constellation. Ain't lying. So, hold on. All right. So, he said that yeah, Nibiru. And matter of fact, he said that in the year 2000, that Nibiru would be coming in. And as you all know, it never happened. Because again, Nibiru is just an Akkadian word that identifies specifically in Akkadian text the planet Jupiter. This is in Mu'apen. This is in Astrolabes. This is in those Akkadian writings. You don't have a Sumerian word, Nibiru. The closest that you have is a term which was for the city of Nippur, because the Sumerians regarded their deities as living with them. So a temple was built for Enlil, and it was in Nippur. Okay, and so what they referred to it as was Nibru, Nibru, not Nibiru. The Sumerian word for Nippur or Enlil's temple was called Nibru, Nibru, if we put it in English. Nibiru, what you would say is Niber. How the hell to spell it? Nibiru. And then what Zechariah Sitchin did was he just added an extra letter and gave you Nibiru from Nibru, which is the Sumerian word for Enlil's temple. Okay. And it's funny, yeah, this is hilarious. And that's something that nobody ever told me as I started learning the language and studying the culture of the Sumerians. That was how I was able to put that part together. And I was like, wow. And when I put it out on Academia. And it's something that had not, and I take pride in it because it's like, damn, this is something that I did on my own and nobody else has ever done it before. They made that connection. Nibru, Enlil's temple, and Nibiru or Neberu, which is the Akkadian word for the planet Jupiter. Now, the Sumerians had a word Jupiter. The word for Jupiter is Sagmegar, and that was for that particular planet because they only could identify five planets in a number of constellations. But
either megalomania or narcissism was one of the diagnoses, wasn't it, Chuck? Delusions of grandeur, one of those three, something along those veins.
Yep. The whole article kind of goes into it because what he was diagnosed with, I just went to the medical dictionaries and presented that diagnosis and how it was diagnosed and the symptoms and what it entails. Nibiru meant winter equinox in Akkadian. I don't know about that, but you do find that word as because it also identified it really any thing that crosses the sky, even Mercury, if it was seen at a certain point in the year. It was put down as Neberu as well because you had it in multiple texts. If you go to the Oriental Institute, I think they changed their name, but if you go to the volume under N Neberu, it gives you, I think it's maybe 10 pages of various texts that has it in the different forms that it's used in. Neberu, and I put that in there in those articles so people can never ever be confused or deceived by what York or Sitchin was saying in regards to Neberu or Nibiru. And I put a challenge out to anybody at any time on any platform that wants to debate whether or not Nibiru is a spaceship planet, a spaceship, or people inhabiting or Anunnaki being on it. And that was something I got from Michael Heiser, because when I showed him York's literature and all this other stuff, he laughed about it. Said, "I'm not messing with that. I have enough time dealing with Zechariah Sitchin. You do it." And that's what spearheaded it for Nuwapianism.com.
So there you have it, folk. And all of these articles can be accessed at Nuwapianism.com. It won't be going down no time in the near future.
Maximo. That's a great point, Maximo.
Nuwapianism, very just good like point. In the title. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's interesting. I like what he put up. You know, it puzzles me that we can get together to be a group of a cult, but we can't put two people together to protect the neighborhood. Damn, I hope you don't mind if I use that as a quote, because that's powerful, because it's so relevant. You know, I was just talking to my mother today, and she was talking. I said, "What's going on over there in DC?" I said, "Oh no, they still killing each other left and right." Yeah.
Can we have Pickle Man's number? I need a sec. I ain't studying y'all. Y'all about the silliest bad.
That Pickle Man thing is going to. Hey, look, I hope it never ends, because it just shows the stupidity that if somebody would even utter in a book, Pickle Man, and then have the nerve to have an illustration depicting them, have the utility belt.
The way you did when you was just laughing.
Yeah. Oh, when the video?
Yes. That would kill me every time.
That was crazy. because it was funny,
And y'all
man. So
had
next time you
all
see a
hell
Nawapian,
Pickle
ask
Man.
him, who's Pickle Man? Something like that. It was funny, man. Yeah, it was crazy. That was fun. But my thing is that whole predator creature. Cause man, when I did watch the documentary on that, man,
Mhm.
this dude's saying that the predator from the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, that whole thing was true. The predator creature is real from the constellation of Andromeda. And the
Yeah,
reason that they
man.
look like that is because the Andromeda galaxy looks like a
Oh,
grasshopper. Damn. So we let you all
bro.
get off the hook because we were just too afraid to ask the right questions. You got to understand that. We
Yeah,
couldn't
well,
just
by
go up
that
and
time,
ask.
y'all had been conditioned. I mean,
Yeah,
look, if y'all didn't get a take-ins, y'all was basically beaten into submission. Some
true,
places,
true, true.
I
And
mean, y'all was starved in other places, so everybody told the party like that's
on the
classic
property,
cult stuff. Yeah.
they were pretty much starved. Some of them
Mm-hmm.
ones, especially if as far as the certain that inner circle, they didn't eat unless they put out, and then when he would take them out to Arby's and other places, fast food joints. Um, but other ones they had to do what we was doing in all the other communities, which was eating lentils. I hated lentils, hated them. So, my girl, when I would come in, she would make the food. This was in DC. This is one on Rhode Island Avenue. And I just hated lentils. But, at that time as Ansars, you're supposed to eat the lentils. And after being walking around all day long, then you come home at night and you got to turn all your money in. All I got was some lentils and some Welch's grape juice. Didn't like it. In Baltimore, it wasn't like that, but DC, yeah, it was rough. It was rough. It was rough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were Bennett as a community on all fronts.
hmm
Because if you didn't go one way, you went the other way and fell into what?
Yeah. But all in all, we survived it. Those survivors that were abused by him, they survived it. Unfortunately, I know one of the victims that tragically died in an accident. Um, at least she saw the day that he did get put away forever in his death sentence, which is 135 years. But then again, I always ask the Wapians, and I did this on Clubhouse. I said, why are y'all so fixated on trying to get York out of prison? I don't understand it. The guy says that he is an Anunnaki and that they cured death and that an Anunnaki can live to be 1,000 years old. So
Lord.
135 years, what is that to an Anunnaki? I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Yeah, he can
Shit.
float out the jail while y'all so pressed to get him out. He can get out by
Yeah,
his own self.
exactly. And keep in mind, he did point out in the Patarak that he allowed himself to be put in prison so that he could determine, like a filter, who really follows him, who are his loyal followers. So what are you talking about? Getting him out of jail.
Y'all just clowning tonight.
That
I
grape juice.
swear.
That's the only thing you could drink that was good. Unless you drank that out
Somebody
in the
said,
street.
tell us about Tammuz.
What York did was there was a publication called Jesus, Horus, and Tammuz in History. I think that was the name of it. And he was trying to paint the picture that uh, the Jesus character was Horus on one hand and Tammuz of the Akkadian writings as being one and the same.
Because Bennett, cults can exist and be benign. It's just when cults turn to these things that they become a problem. You can't
Yeah.
outlaw them because then you outlaw groups that ain't doing nothing wrong. I mean, because you can basically call any group of people a cult if they,
Yeah.
it just depends on how far they take it. And
Yeah.
York took it to the extremes and beyond.
hmm And he started becoming a dangerous cult. Well, technically, at the trial, the prosecution was like, in essence, the organization had some good principles based on the Holy Tabernacle Family Guidebook, had they lived up to it. However, if you separate the cult from York, he's doing his own thing. So people say,
Yeah.
well, how can a man who's put out 100
And
books a
he
year
used.
be having sex with all these people, but still teaching and writing books and all this other stuff? But people just, the only people who really knew were the people who were living on the inside and knew that York didn't do anything but just spend his time doing what he wanted to do, because the sisters were the ones typing up the books. They were going to other
Yeah.
publications, copying what they felt was relevant. He looked at it, parts of it, had some of us read the books, and then he would let it go to market. So he didn't do any of the writing. Supreme Grand Hierophant Dr. Malachi Z. York L., the master teacher. Yeah, that was one of his aliases. The Supreme Grand Hierophant. Yeah. And by that time, Malachi was already his official name after it's been changed twice from Dwight to Asa to then Malachi. I think it got official in 2003. Yeah.
Lord, are you for real? Supreme Grand Hierophant. Boy, stop. I ain't even got the energy tonight.
Yeah, that term and that name, I think that was back in when we was Nuwabian Nation of Moors. That's when he started changing his title. He changed his title most
York
of the time.
was the master of copy and paste. That's what he was the master of.
Essentially.
Plagiarism.
Yeah.
Perversion.
So, it was good as far as pretending to be something to the public. But as I always tell people, because he liked to put out that he was the greatest debater, he was the foremost scholar of the scriptures today. But he never debated anyone who was an academic. He would always have discussions. Like in Brooklyn, you will hear some of the tapes, True Light tapes. He would be arguing with, just the layman, or a Christian pastor, maybe a Sunni Muslim or something.
Years.
But you never ever will not find any place on record where York is having a debate with anyone who specialized in a particular theology, PhD in this, a doctor of divinity in that.
And look, I don't want to block you because then you're going to say we trying to stop you from talking. No, I'm trying to stop you from typing in my chat in all caps. That's bad chat etiquette. Okay.
No. I know who Babylon Don is. I think the brother means well. I mean, I don't have anything against him. I think he's a cool dude.
Yeah. Kill all chaps. It means you yelling at people.
This talking point, like cult, is cultivate culture. Now, generally, we can always say, if you go to because this is what we were told to tell people. If you go to the etymology of the word cult, you'll see that it means to cultivate. Yeah, that's the game that we played on people. Because York himself said that when he created a cult, he wanted to create a cult that would keep the Muslims away, keep the Sunni, keep the Christians away, keep the Hebrew Israelites away. And he said that because this is on an audio recording called "Why We Used Islam," and he talks openly. And the definition of a cult that he's talking about is the modern definition of a cult as having a flamboyant, charismatic leader who controls the organization and their thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And he even says that.
Y'all have to excuse me. I work chats professionally. I say y'all have to excuse me. I work chats professionally, and when you put it in all caps, I be getting yelled at all day. So
yeah,
y'all have to watch.
Like I said,
caps with chat.
I mean, you can always jump on the panel because I've been doing this long enough, so I don't think it's a talking point that an Wapi can come with that I haven't dealt with or taught it. Because I had to teach this stuff too. Because when I had a bookstore, we had to groom our young teachers to go out there and battle on the streets. And because I spent a lot of time in debates, that was my thing. I was the debater in the organization.
And look, y'all keep right on. I'm gonna do the best Nuwapian fails.
So it sounds weird to you, but the Anunnaki, they are not. No, Anunnaki. mean, we don't have any evidence of an Anunnaki ever existing. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. Appreciate it. Yeah, Anunnaki. That is, and again, that's an Akkadian word. That's not Sumerian. The Akkadians who preserved the Sumerian language adopted that rendition and started adding it to their text. So Anuna is the Sumerian term, and it was just those of a royal seed. Because of if you look at the grammar of it, you'll see how and nun and na, and nun is water or sea. Is the word nun is used for semen or water, and na is the term that's used for royalty. I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Is water. As a matter of fact, that's the first one. Matter of fact, I should pull it up. Let me see if I can do it. Let me see. Let me do this real quick, just for the sake of clarity, and then just show off my Sumerian studies. I'm just playing. Let me share this. Let me share my screen. Okay. Where are you? I just want to do this real quick. Okay, here we go. Let me share this real quick. Let me see. Okay, so well, this is interesting. I'm going to show this too. In Sumerian literature, different groups, because there's so many people who had had that utilized the cuneiform writing system. So from the old Babylonians, these are periods. So they had different types of fonts that they use. So the one that I focus on is this one because it's so much easier. That in the area of studies that I'm specializing in, which is using the Ur period and Lagash. All right, so if I put in so I would put in this is the word that you eventually, when the Babylonians, the Neo-Assyrians got hold or started utilizing, even the Akkadians started utilizing it. This was how you find in Sumerian inscription when they're talking about various gods, etc. This is how they refer to them as Nun, Na. So this is the term that's usually associated with liquid, water, even semen or sperm. You know, when you get someone pregnant, this is what they use to identify that. Nun, this is the term that's used in various inscriptions when it's making reference to a royal bloodline or priest or high priest, royalty. Essentially, this is what was meant for royalty. And this is I think this gets into the dative. This just goes into how, depending on what's attached to it, will determine where this definition takes you. But in essence, this is what you see in inscription. You don't see Anunnaki until you go to the scripts of the Akkadians. And one of the best places to find that would be in the Enuma Elish. How do you stop this? Stop sharing. So, so yeah, anybody that wants to see the difference, you go to the script. Oh, and by the way, this term didn't even begin. It doesn't, because people had to make the mistake of thinking that Anuna or Anunnaki goes all the way back 100,000 years. And is the first. No, the first usage goes back to the Ur-3 period, and this would be under what they classify as the Neo-Sumerian period. So it wasn't even used in the ancient times. And then by the time the Akkadians had ruled Sumer and most of Mesopotamia, they developed stories and heroes and epic tales, and they used that derivative from Anuna and became Anunnaki, because you usually find Anunnaki 4. And then the Babylonians and everybody else, they all built storylines around it and went on and on and on. So I just wanted to point that out, because that's something that York talked about in Anunnaki did that, but he never gave a breakdown of it, and the stuff that he used was Zechariah Sitchin's information, and it was all wrong, because Zechariah Sitchin didn't know Sumerian, period. That was the point with that. And I think that York trusted him simply by the fact that he was talking biblical and mixing the two up. But he was made to look like a fool because, his information was wrong. I don't believe it. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to put that part in. I don't know how we came to that, but
at all.
well, yeah, that was the point I was making. So one word can start off as something. So you people say a cult. A cult means to cultivate and cultivate. Yeah, but that was the target point that we use. But when we talk about a religious cult, we know what we're talking about. And you can't get away from that because we have a definition of it.
When you take the chore off the end and it's just a cult, that's a totally different thing from culture. Mm-hmm. Go actually look at the breakdown of the word instead of taking somebody's word on some etymology they done made up off of their understanding. Actually look at how it works. Hey, Riz, that's basically the same thing they did when they broke it down in the first
I think
place.
The modern term of that is linguistic gymnastics. We call it. Every time I hear these groups, I think of the Henchmen and Conan. That's ironic too, because York in the Holy Tablets said that Conan the Barbarian was real. I did an article on that. That's one of the first ones I did.
That's because of when Samuel L. Jackson, James Earl Jones was in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Conan the Destroyer. No, Conan the Barbarian, the original with Arnold Schwarzenegger. See, York spent a lot of time referring to movies because instead of explaining stuff in great detail and going to primary sources like a teacher would, he would always refer you to go to a movie. And I always say that the movies was telling the truth. So when he would point out that the Creature from the Black Lagoon character, he said that's real. The Predator from the movie is real, So that was how he did that. And of course, we just went along with it.
Yeah.
So do you believe we are Moors? I'm not into none of that. I don't even deal with Moors talks of doctrine.
I didn't say you wasn't free to speak. I said don't type in all caps. And yes, it does mean yelling. Yes, it does. You can look that up on Google very easily. Being too.
And, he's mentioning a publication called God, What's the Difference? It's not in all capitals. What is the difference now?
That's what I said.
That publication, it's one of the little $5 books that we used to sell under the quote God series. It's a little brown and white book, and we was pushing that, and that was in that time when York was a borderline teacher of atheism, because he was going after the whole God concept, and he was pushing that pretty hard, and for the most part, he got a strong following from that,
Yes,
it's a cult, and this cult cultivated cultology. So it was a weird sex cult under.
And me asking you direction. To not type in all caps has nothing to do with God. Okay, that's the simple fact that it is considered bad chat etiquette. Look it up. It's the truth. Ain't nobody lying, but you want to say I'm stifling you. How? I ask you to turn your caps lock off. Easy.
Yeah. So I wouldn't go into a big argument over cult, the root word, because when York is making reference to the word cult, he's not using the root word. Again, as Nuwaubians, we were taught that in order to not be classified as a religious cult, always tell them that cult means culture, to cultivate. Yet, when York is saying why we used Islam, he said, I created a cult that would keep the Christians away, that would keep the Muslims away, that would keep the Hebrew Israelites away. Okay? And that he would change his name every few years to keep the attention off of him. Okay? So the context of how he was using the word cult is in the modern colloquial usage of the word cult. When you talk about a Jim Jones, You talk about a David Koresh. All of these people, you go back to that same God series books, Whose God is Responsible? In that book, York talks about religious cults. And he makes it clear of what that definition of a cult is in regards to how it's used today. So that argument is really a weak argument because we have context from the man that you're using who's saying cult means culture and cultivate. So you can't use that unless you want to say the man is inconsistent. And I always said in an article, the one thing that York is consistent in is being inconsistent.
Mhm.
Okay. So do you think we are America? I don't care nothing. None about. See, questions like that, with all due respect, I don't even get into. You know,
What does that have to
because
do with your
this
being
topic,
in
this is
jail?
what I'm dealing with. If you deal with Mesopotamian history, language, or culture, I'm there. But all that other stuff pertaining to like Morris, this, I don't even mess with that.
Y'all just jump into conclusions. Y'all taking Olympic-sized leaps. First, I'm suppressing you because I told you not to type in all caps. Now, Chuck believe in African Americans that came up. You know what? I can't with y'all. It is 12:45 a.m. Central Time, and y'all
And it is 10 minutes to 8 over here in paradise.
Hey, we will be over there soon.
I don't.
After
that's the new. Yeah, they going up on timeout or none.
Nah, we ain't finna do neither. We winding down.
Hey, yeah.
Like they ain't got no more real questions to ask, so now they trying to stretch it.
Yeah. Usually, when we do these shows, the ones who
usually
like
we
battle,
start early in the morning.
They'll go to the comment section of the video, you know. So I usually try to hit all of them, you know, whenever I see them.
Yeah, they still gonna come to the comments. They love the comment section after the video over.
Yeah, but it's all good, you know. Like I said, Nuwaubians never got any therapy for the trauma of losing York. So when he finally does die in prison, he'll be a martyr, and then you're going to have, you know, them saying this, that, and everything else. And then, you know, from time to time, somebody will pop up and say that they're the incarnation of York. All this stuff. It happens. Cults do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, many of them do. So
I was appointed by him. He came to me when he transitioned. Mm-hmm. That's a common one. You know,
they did that. No, they did that right after he was when he was sent to when he was sentenced to Leavenworth. Yeah, you had a couple of people online that were saying that they're the incarnation of Melchizedek because Melchizedek left the body of Malachi York, and now he's personified in the body of that person.
They avatars now, y'all. Mm-hmm. No, Maximum, not necessarily, because like there's a cult that eats sunlight. They're gonna starve to death, but they eat sunlight for now. You know, it just has to be whatever the fixated focal point is, and the whole group is on that. And it's a certain structure in the cult. You have the leader, you have the enforcer class that's right up under them, and then you have the general everyday cult members. And the general everyday cult members are usually what keeps the cult going, either by donations or going out and making money and bringing it home. It's like it's kind of set up like an anthill. You know, the cult leader would be the queen in this case. And the next class would be the drones, and then you would have the worker ants, and that would be the regular cult members.
Mm-hmm.
And they mind
the latter part of Maximum's comment, they revolve themselves around advanced species or creatures. That's interesting because York spent a lot of time talking about ancient this or ancient that, certain things that can't be verified. That's why you won't find York quoting any primary source. In all the publications that he was talking about in the early 90s, in the mid 90s, talking about Nibiru, Anunnakis, Enlil, Enki, all this stuff.
Wait.
He would mention a text. I'm sorry.
I was like, the other thing is that a cult usually coalesces around a common enemy. I was going to say enemy. And in this case, in York's case, it would be with quotation marks in the air, the white man.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And that again is the
white
inconsistency
man
of York.
was the enemy. You know,
that's the inconsistency that York put out, because on one hand he put out in the early, when we first arrived in Georgia, I think in 1993, 1994, he released T-shirts, and in some of the back of the publications he would put out a caption: "No one wins the race in racism." Yes, the T-shirt would have a black Jesus on one half of the face, a white Jesus on the other half, and underneath it says, "Who cares? No one wins the race in racism." Yet, you can look at the audio on the video called I can't remember the name. It's Jesus in Egypt. Everything started in Egypt. Anyway, he says that quote, because I used the quote. It says they say that Nuwapians are not racist. Bull crap. I am. The white man is the devil. Always was the devil, and will always be the devil. So on one hand, you say no one wins the race in racism, yet the white man is the devil. So like I said, the only consistency with Dr. York was being inconsistent. On one hand, he'll say that Jesus of 2,000 years ago never existed. Then he'll say Jesus of 2,000 years ago existed. During the time he said that he was having the Jesus of 2,000 years ago incarnated in him and would at times teach you. You see?
Pickle Man real.
And then later on say that he never existed. Is Pickle Man real? No.
No, I was going to say before I forget, hey, Jaded, if you want another example besides York of how cults work, there are actually recordings, a massive bank of recordings free on the internet from Jim Jones out there in Ghana. You can listen to him sit up there and run white knights to your heart's content. I mean, you don't want to do something like that because it might cause a psychosis. But the last tape that was put out from Jonestown, you can find it on YouTube. And that is the tape right before they forced them to take that cyanide mix.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And you know what? Hear somebody, you can hear this one little old lady defending, you know, saying we can live, we can survive. And he ran the crowd rabid and they shouted her down.
I remember that. I do remember that. And I watched enough of those Jim Jones documentaries, David Koresh documentaries. I've seen so many of them. And I thought it was to Jacob York's credit, when he was helping some of those victims that left the property, you know, when they had a chance to have, you know, some chance to relax, you know, they would look at those documentaries and you could see that they were involved in a cult, something that they weren't familiar with, you know, because that kind of stuff York wasn't, you know, putting out to us in the community because we, in fact, were living it and in real time. But, you know, it is what it is. But these cults are able to thrive because, you know, the people allow it.
And black people don't think black people join cults, even though.
And that was something else. And because remember when well, I don't know if you remember, but York said that he said niggas don't commit suicide, you know, but many of the following that Jim Jones had were black folk. And they did commit suicide.
Yeah, the majority of it, look, they was elderly, they was foster children.
That's so heartbreaking.
He took the disenfranchised of society and used them to roll his agenda. And then when he was coked out his gorg and crazy as I don't know what, he took everybody out.
That is what York did. Let me tell you something.
He already
if you go back to those early, some of those True Light tapes from 1989, you can see York doing the whole cult gimmick. He would have someone come up to the mic while he's in the York studios watching from a monitor and talking. And he
Mhm.
start going into his spill, and he's sounding passionate about you being a social outcast, and that you don't fit in because you're not from here. You're from somewhere
Yes.
else. You know, people always wonder, why does always something bad happens to me? Why every time
And
I
then
run and I miss the bus?
you
Why
can
when somebody else
parallel
get the lottery,
your
all that stuff he said because you're not from here,
yeah.
and then he'll start saying you need to come home to your own, enter to the tabernacle of the Most High, which is at the time was move into the Ansar Nubian Islamic Hebrews mission,
Mhm. You
and
can
that was
parallel York
he
and
was putting it out there
Jones.
and appealing to people who felt like that, who felt like they were the
Mhm.
lowest of the low, and the only place that I can go to where I can be somebody is to be
That's
in
why
the
they call it
tabernacle.
preying on your own people.
Mhm.
But
And he
you
did.
can correlate York and Jones up till you get to the point of the variation. York got arrested and Jones, Jones ran off to Ghana. But see, the reason Jones ran off to Ghana and took everybody is because they was finna start investigating him because he was messing with the cult members, people
Yeah.
wives, got one pregnant, and then
Mhm.
he took the little boy to Ghana to keep the dad from getting dad on paper from getting custody.
Mm. Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
what set the whole thing off. He didn't want to get that little boy back. And when the judges ruled that he had to, all of a sudden the American government's coming. So it wasn't even what he said it was. He whipped them up because he didn't want to lose control, because he knew if he lost control of that first child, the rest of those
Mhm.
parents that had left and he made them sign them fraudulent papers to sign over custody was coming after him. So
Mhm.
it was just like it's the end. So if that's why they separated, that's why they got York when he was separated from everybody else. Because if he'd have had
Mhm.
access to him, he'd have made himself implode in some type of way if he knew they was as
Yes.
close as they was.
Mhm.
David Koresh burnt the building down. They started
Mhm.
firing at the folk when they came out there.
Yeah. Um, to a question, who who or what is Pickle Man according to? I don't know if you're familiar. I see because I know you at one time studied the doctrine. I don't know if maybe you didn't catch that publication, but the Pickle Man character was put in a couple of books. Is God an Extraterrestrial? And another one. Let me go
If
here. I'm
we
going to show you
telling you
something.
he put Predator from the movie in one of the
Let's,
books, why
okay.
are you asking who is Pickle Man?
All right. You see it now? You see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, real fast. I pulled this offline. This little character right here, little dude, bro, man, man is real. Okay, so I started off with some of York's claims. Look into what I am teaching. Check it out. See if it's the facts. I teach you to have facts because by having faith, it isolates the ability to question. Everything I have been teaching you is without doubt. The above quotes from Malachi York about his truthfulness. In addition to that, he asserts that he's the bringer of right knowledge. His job is to set the record straight and to break the spell. And he shows you how to establish fact from fiction by way of these three tests. I gotta record that. Evidence, experience, and reason. And this is taken from the Holy Tablets. Evidence, experience, and reason. Knowledge is always logical and it reasons out. The first step to Nawapo is right knowledge, which will pass any one of the three tests. That is practical for knowledge given. One cannot always use the
Right.
experience test because experience is not practical in all knowledge, and on and on and on. Bam. So the Pickle Man claimed in using the above Nuwapu manual, you can eliminate the experience test because neither York nor any Nuwapian mentions having direct experience with Pickle Man or the Pickle people.
I
So this
just want to
leaves us
say
with
stay woke.
evidence and reason. So I just went into it. So in this publication right here, Is God an Extraterrestrial, which I posted where York took the cover for this. Well, not York, but those who worked in the office, they stole this from another book. And the book obviously delves into extraterrestrial narratives, and York cites numerous tabloid news as proof. These are the Weekly World
The,
News, and
the Bat
the
Boy.
infamous Bat Boy. This is in York's books now. This is supposed to be the man with the supreme knowledge that scientists are waiting to hear what he's got to say. But this is Hatan. This is an extraterrestrial being that York puts in his book. This is Bat Boy, Bat Child found in cave. York put this in his book. Is that real? Okay, so on page 8 of the same book, York presents an illustration for the readers. And the religious, this is the ridiculousness
is the creature
of it.
from the Black Lagoon? Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
Wrong. Yeah, first I said Swamp Thing.
The Fingill man. The Fingill man. So he's got Pickle Man.
Maximo.
You see, now do you see the Pickle Man utility belt? So Pickle Man has a belt that he obviously is using for some purpose. I don't know if this is a complete suit or if he's
powers.
naked. But this is what people say that Dr. York, this doctor means that he's a doctor of divinity. He has certificates, which he doesn't. But this is supposed to be the wisest man on the planet who has an illustration of Pickle Man, the creature from the Black Lagoon from a 1950s science fiction movie. And of course, the predator from a being from Andromeda.
Everything came from Andromeda in the 80s.
So York doesn't give any detail on the Pickle Man. All he does is put it in a book called Is God an Extraterrestrial? And he's just showing you extraterrestrial beings that he asserts are real. He doesn't talk about, and any reference he makes to him is that he's a being from Andromeda.
The bell hose is great, place.
So Nawapians, how does Pickle Man measure up to right knowledge? Here's the facts. Based on what York has presented, it just doesn't. It doesn't reason out. So when you ask who is Pickle Man to York, you don't have anything other than this.
You might,
but you need to ask the question is, why is this guy there?
Right. You might be earnestly asking these questions. You might be convinced, but baby, let me tell you something. It's got cartoon characters in it.
York was a nut, man. But sadly,
every character in there got a shade of York. Every daggone character, 95% of them got a shade of York. If you look at them at the right angle, they look like York. York done been Jesus, Moses, Michael, God, Mikhail.
So you got people like Young Pharaoh, a bunch of other little weirdos that are running around that are using, without mentioning York, are using his playbook. So they're like, he'll go on a show and then he'll be in an argument, and then he'll put up a picture of an extraterrestrial in Egypt. And then you'll have something that's, just a fake Photoshopped image, but he's trying to get the point that, this is what York. Can you imagine if York had a YouTube channel?
Right. If I walked up to you tomorrow and said I had unicorns at my house, you wouldn't believe me. So why do you believe York when he say Pickle Man exists?
Hey, wait a minute.
I got my ramblings. You ask, was Pickle Man real? And you gonna say I'm rambling?
Check this out.
Yo, I wish they'd bring back the men with the butterfly nets and the I love me jackets. I swear we wouldn't have these problems.
Hold on. Damn. Okay, let me see. Oh, here you go. Oh, here's a good one. Here's one. I'm just going through my website because I ain't dealt with this stuff.
I'm rambling, y'all. Take your time.
Yeah, let me turn this down. Hold on. Let me shrink this to make it readable. Okay. All right. I'm gonna share this one too. This is another one. Since you brought up something just a second ago that triggered my memory on this. Oh, here's the one that I asked the Nawapians. I'll say, okay. Ask the Nawapians, how did rats mate with birds to produce bats?
Oh yeah. Yes, the whole backwards crossbreed animal shit.
But just look at the now remember, I'm my brain is shooting faster than my mouth is able to process. Let me slow it down. How can people say that Malachi York was a master teacher? Was he a master of teaching deception and stupidity and just ridiculousness? Is this the kind of stuff that the United States government put all their money in to get this man taken off the street? Because he's teaching that bats were the results of birds and rats? I mean, these people don't know what they're saying, or they just don't know the doctrine well
That
enough.
was answered earlier, Bennett. You're going to have to replay Gang Gang because it's 1 a.m.
Oh, I'm about to wrap it up real fast. I'm about to wrap it up. Okay, anyway, York put
They
in the
said we
publication,
just
I
ain't
think
going to
it's the
go back
Dogwood.
over ground.
It said the bat.
That's already
The
been
bat is
tried.
a rat. The bat is a
Mhm.
rat-like animal with wings. The bat is the result of mating of the bird, which accounts for the wings, and the rat, which accounts for the appearance of its body. Rat plus bird equals bat. See? That's right knowledge. That's
Supposed to
what
be
this fool
sound right
taught.
reason.
That
I'm
sounds.
just
This is right
yeah.
knowledge. And it's even look,
Melanated said, go ahead and I'll read it after.
Yeah. So when he attacked the Christians in the 360 question book to ask the Christians, he's saying that the God of the Bible is a stupid fool because he don't know that birds are not bats. Well, does that make Malachi York a stupid fool when he's trying to teach us and you that the rat and the bird made the bat? I don't get it. What was it that York taught that was so significant that rendered him the title of the master teacher? Oh, wait a minute. I know where it came from. It was self-professed. We refer to them as that because he started releasing publications saying that he was the master teacher, not that he had any certificates. So this
we don't know
nonsense,
the answer to that
this
shit, Bennett.
stupidity. Who stands behind this? Who stands behind this? Look, rat plus bird equals bat.
I bet you wouldn't ask questions this long about the trial and what he did because you ain't asked Nan yet. You didn't ask about nonsensical, non-existing, really just non-worthy-ish. And then you get mad because I told you not to type in all caps. Which one of us is rambling, though? I just want to know. This is coming from the narcissistic, sociopathic, cult leading slave master, you know, because y'all sure love to mislabel stuff.
And which bird did he? And which bird did the rat mix with? Did it mix with a buzzard? An owl? Which bird?
I don't know. Maybe a rat cornered a hummingbird somewhere and got it on against the hummingbird. Hummingbirds got rights too, y'all.
Dude,
hummingbirds got rights.
I can't take these. So when a brother who may mean well, I don't know what his psychological
he can't mean well,
today.
Chuck. That's
if he makes a statement like that, I have to question the sanity of anyone saying that Malachi York was a master teacher because when we look at his publications, only someone who's in some type of having some type of psychotic episode, some delusional episode,
was raised in that mess and ain't never been out in the real world.
Yeah. So,
were you sheltered as a child?
Hey, remember York said that. York said that he was being visited by 3 extraterrestrials when he was a child, Krill, Al-Lot, and someone other one. Now I know that Krill. I knew that when he was starting to talk about Krill, he had to have gotten that from William Cooper's book, Behold the Pale Horse, because you won't find any extraterrestrial beings called Krill prior. So he had to have gotten that book from the Behold the Pale Horse book because I sent the book to him. See, I was hanging out with Steve Coakley for a long time. And so when Coakley was get up there and start talking, because I gave Steve Coakley an audio tape that I had got from a brother talking about the Illuminati. And he started doing lectures about the Illuminati. And because I asked him, so he went to California. He said he looked up this guy named Lance Collins, who said that we established a political organization in politics. I forget how he phrased it. And it was called the Illuminati. And his name was Lance Collins, and he gives this lecture talking about his family line going all the way back, you know, the bloodlines that David Icke and them eventually took part of. And so um, in that book, I'm sorry, in that lecture, I gave it to Steve, and he started talking about it. And so in the book, Behold a Pale Horse, William Cooper talks about one of the beings that visited Eisenhower, and his name was Krill. And I know that York got it because I gave him the book. And then he started talking about Krill in some of the publications. Matter of fact, he said that that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was an extraterrestrial from Zeta Reticuli. He was a gray, you know, with the big head. It's crazy
if
stuff.
You came over here for help, put one in the chat.
Was a nut.
But if you came over here to try to trick somebody into validifying, is that a word? Validating. That's the one I'm looking for. In the validating, that drivel that you putting into the chat, since you want to say I'm rambling, and then you might want to go on somewhere else because we'll be here all night going around in circles. That ain't gonna happen.
Nah. Like I said,
Hold up, Tink might need help, y'all.
It just some people just didn't get the didn't see a psychiatrist, and a lot of us should have seen a psychiatrist or have broken away.
Everybody that was in there should have seen one.
Straight. Because a lot of people were traumatized. I'm serious, and there's no joke. A lot of people were traumatized when y'all got arrested.
Here goes the disparity. Black people don't like to admit that Black people join cults. Therefore, they don't get the same services because guess what? The government didn't fund non-white folk cult rehabilitation center or none of that. All that was because of rich parents, concerned citizens that pulled together and funded somebody to come up with something. So people depending on the government to swoop in and save us from, no, they just come in for the aftermath when shit go left. They could snatch you before it went all the way left. So they snatched him, not because he was Black, but because they didn't want another Jonestown. They didn't want another Waco. They didn't want another Ruby Ridge.
Yeah, they got him when he was separated. To this last question, I wanted to say, will you ever reach a point where you can let all this go, York Nwapi, and enjoy your retirement with your family? Actually, I am enjoying my I'm not retired, but I'm enjoying my time with the family. I let this stuff go back in 2011. What I do is I share information. I challenge the cult whenever I find them online or when it's necessary. I don't want to talk about this stuff, but because there's so many of them online in various pockets and under garbage cans, that they put stuff out there that confuses or misleads people. So it is incumbent upon me to share what I know to counteract it or to refute it or debunk it. So that's what and why I do what I do as, you know, a side hobby, because I don't do this all the time like I used to do, you know, when we was online all day and all night.
Yes.
Right now, I just do it whenever they pop up at specialty moments. And with the website alone destroys anything that they have to say. Just
y'all don't do nothing else.
300 articles that are up there. So yeah, that's how. So I'm at a point now that, in a sense, I feel like I'm retired, and I'm happy with the family. Everybody's around here right now. Matter of fact, we're getting ready to go and eat. It's 8:15 over here in Paradise. So yeah, I let all that stuff go a long time ago.
I was telling you.
And right now, I'm kind of a consultant and an aid worker to try to help those people that are still you know, mentally lost as a result of York. You know, I'm not alone. I still, you know, the New Pools, they help me on TAR. You know, other experts who are involved in organization that's moved on as well. If I ever need any insight from them from a position that they may have held at the time, I can always consult with them. And hey, things are good. Life is good. I'm loving life. I'm at the happiest I've ever been in my life and the most successful I've ever been in my life. So life is good. So my retirement is looking pretty good. And besides, I got my health, my sanity, my strength. Hit the gym. I'm straight. Yeah, I'm good. It's a way over. So anyway, I got to get ready to go.
And thank you, Chuck, for taking time out to come up and do this.
It's
As always, we
it's been
appreciate it.
I'm sorry because
Yeah.
I wanted my green screen to show up
It
because I
ain't
got
no
my
biggie.
background.
Look, hey,
surrounded
at
with
least
all
we
this
up
green.
here because
Hold
your
on.
lights
Look
might
at- let's
not
see,
be
baby.
back on.
Oh, I can't even show my look. I can't. It said won't even let me show my screen, so I can't
You
even do
probably
my.
got it open on something else or the camera stuck. You're gonna have to restart.
Yeah, I probably do that. But next time we do something, anytime I come on your show again, I have my green screen because I got a whole lot of stuff I want to show live.
All right.
Anyway, I got these people waiting for me. We gotta go.
Yes, sir. Thank you once again, and we gonna close out here, fam.
I'm still live. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I'm coming. I gotta go.
All right.
I gotta.
All right. Thank all y'all for coming out.
Yeah,
we gonna close it out for here tonight,
and I gotta go.
All right.
Bye, all.
Bye, Chuck. We gonna go ahead and close out here. Thank you both channels for showing up and showing out. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the new subs. Replay gang. We'll see y'all. Y'all see us when y'all replay it. We finna y'all. You know what? Typical to Nuwapian tactic. You wait till Chuck say he gotta go, and I start winding down and say put the link in the chat. You know what the answer to that is? No, because you could have asked an hour ago, 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago. This is Trip C's Treehouse, where it's always swinging, and we're out.